10 मिनट राख्ने
हजुर 10 minutes टाइम 10 minutes
2 मिनट चाहिँ कन्भर्सेसनको होइन
हजुर फिडब्याक्स अब
कन्भर्सेसन क्वेसन एन्सर 2 मिनट होइन
हुन्छ सर हुन्छ
हैन त्यो अनुसार जाउँ अब त्यो तपाईहरुको सल्लाह अनुसार रोल नम्बर वाइज चाहिँ गर्दाखेरि ठिक हुन्छ हैन
हुन्छ सर ल सबैले सकेसम्म भिडियो अन गरौँ न यसो इन्टरेक्टिभ बनाऊ यसो सबैको
हैन यो अब सरले नै बोलाउनु हुन्छ कि एकजनाले गर्दा पनि भयो हैन हाम्रो ग्रुपबाट के छ त्यो
जे गरे पनि हुन्छ अब ऊ के भन्छ रे अलिकति उसको लागि भन्न न त्यो भोलिको लागि चाहिँ अलिकति एक्सप्लोर हुने किसिमले तपाईहरुकै साथीबाट गर्दा पछि राम्रो होला
ओके ल हाम्रो अब सुभाष अधिकारी दाइ गरौँ न त तपाई नै
ल हुन्छ ल रोल नम्बरबाटै जाउँ ल
ए हुन्छ प्रेजेन्टेसन भने के भने
प्रेजेन्टेसन
हैन सुलभले गर्दा नि भयो नत्र रोल नम्बर वाइज गर्ने भयो
ल हाम्रो सुभाष अधिकारी दाइलाई आजको मोडरेटर बनाउँ न त उहाँले इन्भाइट गर्नुहुन्छ सबैलाई
ए हुन्छ
ओके ल
प्र्याक्टिस पनि हुन्छ हैन
हजुर हजुर हुन्छ
ओके सर रेडी हुनुहुन्छ हैन सर
ल म रेडी छु
सुरुमा सरलाई केही भन्न दिउँ न त हामी यसो सुनौँ
today we are going to the presentation about the term paper for the utilization subject in Forestry, and we are allocate the times 10 minutes for the presentation and 2 minutes conversation, question answer or feedbacks from the student side or teacher side also. Today is the corporate or the Subhasa Iskari for the presentation of your class. Thank you.
My turn now.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can start the session by moderating it.
Okay.
And we Tilak sir lai pani yeso
Okay sir. Good afternoon everyone. Good afternoon our respected teacher Mr. Vijay Kumar Yadav sir, and I'd like to welcome our teacher Tilak Chaudhary sir also. Today we are here for the presentation of our forest product utilization term paper, and without delaying any time I just want to invite the presenter who is ready now. Munna or Sulak?
Sulak,
Munna, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, I would like to invite Munna Chaudhary for his presentation, and you are familiar with the time. Okay, you are allocated 10 minutes of time. I'll be watching the time and I will one also. Okay, let's do it.
Thank you, Dad. Good afternoon to faculty members and my batchmates. I am Munna Chaudhary, a student of Institute of Forestry at Hetauda Campus, Hetauda. Today I am here to give a short presentation on a term paper topic, problems and prospects of timber product marketing. Let's move on next slide. Outline of my presentation start with introduction and ends with references. Let's move on introduction. First of all, timber product marketing is the process of selling timber products to obtain its true value. The main aim of timber product marketing is to achieve the best financial return by getting fair price through proper marketing. If you look over the channel of timber product marketing orientation in Nepal, it starts with the production of timber species, felling of tree and its sectioning, grading of logs for auctioning, and transportation of auction logs to the urban market, and processing of those logs into the timber product market according to the demand of consumer. If you look over the problems and prospect of timber product marketing, why it is important. If we look over the reachable forest area in Nepal, there are only 1 million hectare of forest are in productive cycle. Generally, demand of timber are generally fulfilled by the national forest, such as community forest, government managed forest, private forest. And if you look over in the private forest, generally private land and the farmland has the main role. Only 1 million of hectare of forest is in the productive cycle. We are not unable to fulfill the demand of timber as it is fulfilled through the major contribution of private and national forest. We are unable to fulfill the demand as the dependency on forest country for timber products are increasing day by day. We are importing large amount of timbers and trade deficit is increasing every year. So more than 50% of timber products in the markets are imported. In this term paper, I have reviewed the problems and prospects of timber marketing in the 4 perspectives such as policy, institutional marketing, and other sides, so that we can maintain the timber deficit and increase the economy of Nepal through the management of the timber marketing within Nepal. Let's move on objective of my term paper. The objective of term paper is to overview the problems and prospects of a timber products marketing. Let's move on the methodology. As in my term paper, I have reviewed the secondary data sources such as articles, library journals, news, books, and report, as well as many other sources. Let's move on results and discussion. As I have already discussed that I have divided into parts, problems, and prospects within the problems and marketing of timber its products. I want to go on policy perspective. Yes, there has been a growing policy emphasis on NTSP, biodiversity, and environmental services rather than the timber. There is a national policy debate with the negative perception over the timber, such as the green timber felling, illegal timber harvesting, climate change. There has been issue between the 3 tiers of the federal government regarding the duplication of responsibility, conflicting legal provisions, and coordination among them. There has been tight legal provision in Chure, legal management intervention considered as a limited use zone, land use zone in 2010, and there has been restriction on timber extraction, generally the extraction of the dead and drying tree. However, the most of the deported timber are degrading or are generally lost in the depot. If you look over the scientific forest management, it has hit the timber production and become hindrance in the timber demand, supply, and the economy of Nepal. If you look over the ad hoc and irrational decisions such as ban on timber harvest, transport, and selling of a timber species is becoming the irrational decision in the policy level. Encouragement of the non-transparent trade or black market by the policy focus on only marketing of trees, transportation of fell logs, and there is also the absence of supportive policy for the timber flourishing in Nepal. In marketing perspective, COVID-19 has hits on timber production and its marketing supply chain. If you look over the entrepreneur side, there has been little encouragement, lack of absence of a investment environment, so there has been less interest of private sector in timber production. If you look over the price discrepancy, there has been a larger price discrepancy resulted by the corruption throughout the market chain and its risk associated with there. If you look, one of the researchers has found that the price of the Malaysian sal is 5,000, the 5,000 means 4,200, and the price of the domestic sal is 5,800. There has been large difference between the price of the sal. This is also increasing the timber import in Nepal is due to the strict legal provision, high market price, and the ban on timber felling and transport by techno bureaucrats without scrutinizing its technical benefits, scientific benefits, and its practical implication has encouraging the timber import in Nepal. If you look over the market chain, there has been a monopoly type of market, many intermediaries, long timber valuations, and there has been no proper selling distribution channels. And if you look over the other issue, there has been dominancy of the sal timber, and there is no substitute of the sal in Nepal, illegal harvesting, and lack of trained manpower efficiency. If you look over the institutional perspective, there has been little official institutional interaction and communication between the officials and the user group regarding the timber production, management, and timber marketing in domestic market. There has been a great official eye view on those who harvest more timber. As one of the researchers has found that there has been a more surveillance, more interaction, more monitoring in the Tri district than the Hill district. There has been corruption motive in the different community leaders, officials regarding the higher annual harvest, illegal harvesting, and trade in timber. There has been a great pressure for the timber producers such as user groups regarding the permission for the increased harvest. if you look over the other issue, there has been negative connotation in the media organization regarding the timber felling, green timber felling, over harvesting, corruption, encroachment, confiscation of the timber, misuse of the power. These are the hindrance factor that is mainly main problems explained by in the media organization. As they have in Nepalese people perception, there has been largely dominated by the saying that felling of live trees is essentially bad. Timber production and timber marketing is undermined by the large environmental narrative such as theory of environmental degradation, Rio Summit of Environment and Development, and there has been a large discourse on biodiversity conservation, ecological sustainability, ecosystem restoration, and then, rather than the timber production and the marketing. There has been an ongoing conflict between various actors, and there has been big deliberate links across the multiple level governments regarding the timber marketing in Nepal. And I have to go the prospect of the marketing of timber and its products. Let's focus on the policy perspective. There should be a review amendment of the banned timber policy. Otherwise, we have to formulate the new policy focusing on the timber marketing flourishing in Nepal. There should be a policy institutional focus on timber marketing. This is one of the perspectives regarding the timber marketing, production oriented forest management, and controlling of the illegal timber felling and trade of the timber. Now, moving on the institutional perspective, there should be a promotion of the various forestry sectors such as private, industrial, commercial, forestry, and industries like forest-based industries in different level, small, medium, or large scale. There should be a creation of the suitable environment, investment environment, and encouragement of the private owners, entrepreneurs regarding the encouraging the private sector to enter into the business of the timber production, management, and marketing, development of the value chain of the every timber, especially through research and development, as a substitute of the sale. And one of the main prospects would be that if we will be able to discourage the timber import by higher tax and quota quality insurance of importer. These are the prospects of timber marketing in the perspective of the marketing. Now, I'd like to move on the conclusion that despite Nepal has a various productive forest, but the timber marketing is unable to meet the growing demand of the timber and its products within the country, and created a trade deficit due to increasing trend of the import. Some of the reasons such as some process, high market price of the timber products, black market, bureaucratic hurdles, mafias, etc. are the main causes of hindering the flourish of domestic marketing in Nepal and enforcing the import of timber from various foreign countries. In the present context, national forestry policy focusing as the secondary priority, comparing with the NTFP payment in environment services rate, biodiversity, etc. It means there is a discursive practice over the timber despite share of timber in forest-based economy. Now, I would like to move on the recommendation that there should be a positive picture from the media regarding the timber marketing. Supportive policy on the timber marketing, investment environment for the private owners, entrepreneurs would be the best implication and way forward to timber product marketing in Nepal. And in policy level, there should be amendment of the existing forest law regulation regarding the timber marketing, including the provision for additional surveillance by government for officials during timber harvesting, distribution, sale, and transport, and pricing of and taxing of the timber. So there should be involvement of the both from the government side and also part of the committee regarding the timber marketing in Nepal. As these are my references taken during the literature review in the term paper. Now, if you have any queries and feedback regarding my term paper, you will be heartily welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Muna, for such a nice presentation. And your time was 10 minutes 12 seconds. Okay, now I'd like to open this virtual floor to our batchmates, colleagues for any queries. If there is any queries, you can just raise your hand. Okay, no one. Then I'd like to open this virtual floor to our respected teachers for any feedbacks and comments for Mr. Muna Chaudhary.
I'm not sure if BJ sir want to say anything. If not, I just don't like it's not a questions, but like just a comment, because like you have had a lot of information. Though it's a nice presentation, you had a lot of information to present in a 10 minute. 10 minutes. It's like I could not consume all the information you tried to present. It's like just a term paper. So I would prefer you to focus in a certain aspect. So like you are saying policy aspect, right? So if you could just focus on policy aspect, and then or maybe other management aspect. If it's the management aspect, you should have focused on only the management
Thank you, sir.
aspect of timber marketing. So it was a lot of information in a 10 minute to digest. So I would suggest to other students and you for further presentation for like short presentation like 10 minutes, you just give an overview of just an idea, not everything. Don't try to include everything in your presentation.
Thank you, sir, for your constructive feedback.
Thank you, Tilak sir. Vijay sir, if there is any you can add.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
No.
then thank you, Muna. Just stop your screen.
Thank you,
And I
Dad.
would like to call Mr. Ayush Gautam. Be ready for that. Ayush, are you ready? Okay. The floor is yours.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, you are visible and audible.
Yes. Thank you everyone for the opportunity provided. I am Ayush Gautam, going to present on prospect and plans of wood-based industry of underused species, that is Santalum album in Nepal. And thank you for the opportunity. Moving towards the presentation, the outline of my presentation goes as introduction, materials and method, literature, discussion and conclusion. Moving on to the introduction part, as we all know, sandalwood holds a great significance on medical and religious value of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam. It carries all the religious value of major religions of Nepal followed in today's date. It is known as Chandan in Sanskrit, and we all know that Chandan is being religious throughout the nation, and we put like tika on our forehead of Chandan. That is religious background of Chandan. Also, it is highly priced for its hardwood. Santalum album is the only economically valuable tree in the family. There are other species like Santalum speciatum and other species of Santalum, but Santalum album is the most priced hardwood of the family. Similarly, it is found from Indonesia in the west to Juan Fernandez Island in the east, from Hawaii in the north to New Zealand in the south. I have made a small map regarding the distribution of sandalwood. Similarly, moving on, knowing something about the sandalwood, we can know that it is a small to medium-sized tree of 12 to 13 meter height. Similarly, it survives on the precipitation below up to 300 to 500 millimeters. Also, it can be found and planted up to 1800 meters of elevation or altitude. Similarly, it can survive the temperature of 0 to 40 degrees Celsius and mostly found in 6 to 8.5 pH of soil. Now moving on to the materials and methods. The reason for the literature research, as this was only based on the literature research of various authors. So what were the reason for the literature research? As to build study about the wood-based industry development, we will have to establish tree to the point of harvesting, as we all know. So then find out the best technique from heat and trial method for yield extraction. Then economically analyze the internal rate of return during the period of time. For the building of study about the wood-based industry, we need to follow this type of procedure. But this procedure requires enormous amount of resource and time. So I went for the literature research. Similarly, for the primary and secondary data collection, primary materials used for preparation of this paper were the research articles on like plantation procedures, silviculture techniques, analysis of economic benefit from the tree, oil extraction from hardwood. The article which focused on this type of topics were selected as primary material. Similarly, other publications of FAO, MOFP, Food and Agriculture Organization, Ministry of Forest and Environment, and journals of various universities and publications were taken as secondary sources for the completion of the paper. Now moving on to the literature review. We all know that Chandan has been a worship plant from the early age as Mahabharata states Srikhanda Chandanam Divyam Gandhadyam Sumanoharam Bilopan Suraseshta Chandanam Pratigrihatyam, which translate as, "O Lord, best of Devas, please accept my offering of this divine sandal which spreads charming fragrance." This conveys the religious importance of the sandalwood tree. Similarly, other writers uh, provide numerous importance of sandalwood, as Kumar et al. Provides numerous product of sandalwood as possible through domestication and enterprise development. Similarly, Ludi 2017 describe a liter of sandalwood oil cost 5 times higher than equivalent amount of silver. Similarly, Chandrasekharan et al. 2020 states Santalam album is highly valuable among Indian forestry species and considered as the second most expensive wood in the world. Now moving on to the economic analysis, Divakara et al. 2018 states that there are 26 to 29% of internal rate of return when sandalwood sole crop is planted and sandalwood plus Turdal intercropping is done respectively, which shows a massive benefit in the new certain period of time, which Biswanath, Dhanya and Rathor also favors the research by claiming IRR to be 31% from monoculture sandalwood plantation. This portrays the economic benefit of sandalwood tree. Similarly, moving to the discussions and result. For the plantation practice, the climatic requirement for the tree is 500 to 2000 millimeter of precipitation is suited to plant. Similarly, 800 to 1000 millimeter of precipitation is good for the hardwood production, which is essential for the uh, oil production. Similarly, the minimum and maximum temperature is 15 to 17 degrees Celsius and 37 to 40 degrees Celsius respectively. Going on to the soil requirements, sand and soil mix or vermiculite is essential for the soil requirement of sandalwood plantation. Similarly, growth flourishes in sandy, clay, red loamy, and even in black cotton soil. Of course, red loamy means soil containing the iron oxide. Similarly, it is not suitable in the calcareous soil. For the land preparation, sand to red earth should be 3:1 in the ratio of 3:1. Similarly, primary host, as we all know that sandalwood is a hemiparasitic plant, so it needs a host plant to nurture properly. So that is why primary host should not be planted farther than 2 to 3 feet for the land preparation. Similarly, for plantation practice, moving on to the manure and fertilizer application, nematicide like Eucalox and Themate at 500 gm should be spread on 10 into 1 meter bed once in 15 days. Similarly, fungicide diethane Z78 of 0.25% volume by volume should be spread once in 15 days. Similarly, for the primary host, as you all know, it is a parasitic plant. Primary host in the nurseries can be short-lived, which are the species like tomato, legumes, and capsicum. And the secondary host like Melia dubia, Melia azederac, Asia nilotica, Dalbergia, Sisou terminalia, Arjuna terminalia, Alata, and Cassia samia can be the secondary host which act as a longer which has act as a longer period of time as after the plant is established. Similarly, moving on to the nursery procedure, 12,500 seeds are required for 10,000 seedling, uh, predicting the 80% return in the success rate of the seedling. Similarly, it is to be moved into polypot of 13 into 30 cm when seedling reaches 4 to 6 leaf stage. As you can see in the figure, the plant has reached six leaf stage and it is moved to the polypot. Similarly, to carry 10,000 seedling, 170 trays of 1 meter into 1 meter is required. Further, 15 into 15 meter must be maintained, considering up to 15 into 12 feet for the plantation, but not less than that. Interspecies inter tree distance must be 15 into 15 feet, which can be considered up to 15 into 12 feet at maximum, but not less than that. Similarly, seed rate and seedling requirement, 6,000 seeds per kg is obtained. Similarly, dormancy of 50 to 60 days is seen in the seeds, and use of gibberellic acid is used for the increase in germination rate. Now moving on to the irrigation and water management, as we can know that as I want to explain that sandalwood is not the tree which requires a lot of water. It can sustain its life on the rainfall. Similarly, however, young plant requires watering in summer month at 15 to 20 days interval. Now moving on to maturity and harvesting. Harvested at age of 15 to 60 years, the earthwood starts to form at 12 years and matures within the growing event of time. So the tree can be harvested between 15 to 60 years, taking the proper consideration of IRR, in which year the profit is maximum. It should be harvested on that very year. Then the softwood is first removed. Then the hardwood is chipped and then converted into powder, and the powder is soaked in water for 48 hours and then distilled to obtain the oil. Now moving on to the oil extraction, as we have already gained up to the powder of the sandalwood. Now from the powder, how can we extract oil? Well, I'll explain it here. Now moving for the extraction of sandalwood oil, there are typically uh, three types of method. There are more types of method, but I would like to focus on only three types of method on this presentation. Moving on to the CO2 extraction process. Liquid CO2 is provided with high pressure and low temperature, converting into the liquid CO2, which is passed through a powder output of sandalwood, from which the oil and CO2 mixture uh, uh, is put in the separator and is thrown away to the separator, from which the CO2 and oil are separated and essential oil is obtained. Based on the research, the highest oil yield is obtained from subcritical CO2, which is the explained CO2, that is 3.83 gram per liter from the extraction. This process extracts the maximum amount of essential oil from the sandalwood. Now moving on to the hydrodistillation, as the process of CO2 distillation, CO2 extraction is a bit complicated and technical. This is one of the easiest way for the extraction of oil. For the hydrodistillation, water and sandalwood powder is kept on a beaker,
10 minutes.
round bottom flask. Then it is soaked in a water and the solution is heated, and the solution is passed through a condenser, from which it goes to the separator, and the essential oil is separated from the water, which produce 1.86 to 2.68 gram per liter of sandalwood oil, which is the second highest of the uh, extraction process. Similarly, for the steam distillation, sandalwood powder is passed through the steam, and when it is passed to the steam, water plus oil is uh, extracted and taken out to the condenser, from which it connects to the separator, and essential oil can be extracted from the separator, which produce 1.6 gram per liter of oil. This is the one of the lowest method for production of the essential oil. uh, Now moving on to the conclusion of my study, sandalwood carries a historic importance in terms of religion and economy as well. As we all know that due to the lack of technical knowledge and plantation procedure, establishment techniques hinders the enterprise development. Similarly, highest oil extraction from CO2 extraction technique was seen, and entrepreneur with knowledge of plantation technique and post-harvesting value addition is sure to get massive internal rate of return, which is the sandalwood is highly benefit product which will be considered for the wood-based industry in Nepal. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayush. Your time is 11 minutes 41 seconds. And thank you for your nice presentation. I'd like to open this floor for students or my colleagues if there is any queries. Okay, now let's move on to our teachers.
Okay, I just want this presentation, Ayush. I really like the way you have kept your slides, and they were very clean and very visually pleasing, right? Map of the sandalwood distribution, or you just use the map from someone else. The one of my question is that, and then other thing is like when you said you presented 3 methods of extracting the oil. So do you have any idea from the literature that which one is the most economically viable?
Yes, may I
You
answer?
get my question?
Yes, I got your question, sir. Yes, regarding your first query about the map, I made the map myself using the Excel. From the various literatures I have read, I have found that the sandalwood was found in different countries, and I portrayed that data on the Excel file, and from the Excel file itself, it produced a map. So which I copy pasted on the presentation. So map was made by me, and for the economic and valuation of the oil, it is from the literatures I found that hydro distillation is easiest and less technical and most economic in the long run. That I think that is your question. Further query can be addressed, sir, please.
Okay, but just not to you but to everyone, like I said to Muna, because you had a lot of information, like Subhas said already, you went far away from your time, right? Like just a minute away, but then you presented you were presenting it in so quick fashion that because you have to cover a lot of slides. So as the rule of thumb, a minute is for a slide. So it's like a slide for a minute. You should just prepare one slide for a minute. So that's why general rule of thumb, when you present somewhere else, they say like a presentation, a slide, a minute. So talk about 10 minutes, you should have 10 slides, not like 30 slides or 20 slides, so that you have to rush through all the slides. It's a general comment to everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Tilak sir, for your nice comments. Vijay sir, if there is any, then you can add.
Thank you, Ayush. You are present a very nice. In a short time, you are present whole life cycle of the sandalwood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now I'd like to call next presenter, Miss Sweta Jha. Are you ready? Hello, Sweta.
Yes, Dai, I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
sharing my screen.
Okay, the floor is yours now.
Is my screen visible?
Has started. Okay, still now not visible. Okay, but it has shown that has started screen sharing. Might be coming. Okay, still not shown your screen.
Share the screen.
I have shared from here, but
Stop that and just do it again. There might be disturbance.
We can ask another participant to.
Hello, Sweta. Your screen is not shared. Okay, still. If there is any problem, then we can move on to next presenter.
Yeah.
Sweta, are you ready, or we can move on to next? Hello, Sweta.
Okay, let's move on to our next participants.
Okay. I think there might be internet disturbances. Okay, now I'd like to call Mr. Dotendra Gole for his presentation now.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bro.
Okay, the floor is now yours.
Okay, namaste and good afternoon, everyone. Respected faculty members and our campus chief sir and other faculty members, sirs, and my dear colleagues who are present here for the term paper presentation. First of all, I would like to thank and to give congratulate to my previous presenters, Mr. Ice and Muna brothers. They have such a nice and fantastic presentation. And now I have also tried as my best as an adult student. Okay, my time over topic is National Policy Review on Timber and Allied Sectors in Nepal. And me, Dr. Kumar Gole, roll number 4, and it will be submitted to the Moral Coordinator, Sir, Mr. Vijay Kumar Yadav, sir. Introduction. In the policy review, first of all, we know about the policy. A policy is a deliberate system of principles to guide decisions and achieve rational outcomes. As a plan is a typical and diagram or list of steps with details of timing and resource used to achieve and assume to be something. And a strategy, it is a high-level plan to achieve one or more goals under the condition of uncertainty. These are the we also say is the hierarchy of the planning system. Forest provides multiple goods and services that fulfill societal and environmental wants and needs. Absent utilization of natural production, forest is often in question because of the conflicting needs of society and environmental coupled with the ineffective policies and practices. Timber is a product produced from the 3 main sources in the country, which include government managed forest, including collaborative forest, community forest, and private land, including trees and farmland, private forest. Of the total timber produced in the country, private land supplies nearly 9/10, 6% of the timber produced in the country, followed by the government managed forest 7.7 and community forest by 5.5%. It is from the research paper, Mr. Basnath et al. 2020. Timber is also the main source of the income of the rural communities, which contributed to the more than half of the total forest income. According to the data available from the Federation of Nepal Forest-Based Industries and Trade, wood-based industries provide employment to over 150,000 persons through manufacturing industries such as ply, banner, kotha, sawmills, and furnitures. The objective. The general objective of this term paper is to review the national policy and timber and allied sectors like forest, industrial, trade, labor in Nepal. Methodology, the previous research findings, publication reports of other lineages and various relevant researches were reviewed for this term paper. Now the results. National policies related with timber in Nepal. The first one is National Forest Policy 2019. The vision of this policy is Nepal through managed forest area and balanced environment contribute to economic, social, and cultural prosperity. And goal to manage forest protected areas, reservoirs, biodiversity, wildlife, and the other product to sustainable and participatory managed with production of forest related product of services and value addition of services with their equal distribution. Objectives related with timber, to increase the productivity, production, and the environmental services of the forest area, to be self-reliant in forest production and the promote export with value addition, conservation, rehabilitation, and sustainable use of forest flora, fauna, and biodiversity. The other one is forest strategy 2025. Timber related outcome. Forest productivity and sustainable supplies of products and services enhanced to achieve these outcomes. Promotes wise and efficient use of forest products, ensure transparent, predictable, and stable supplies of forest products and services, improve the harvesting technology for forest products, and promote green products. And the second was livelihoods of forest sector contribution to national economic development improved. To achieve this outcome, diversity and optimize the utilization of the forest products and services, encourage and promote competitiveness in supply and value addition of forest products and services, promote forest-based job creation and income in all other sectors. Periodic plan. The concept of plan development in Nepal began in 1956 when the first five-year plan was launched. It laid emphasis on forest conservation principally through large-scale afforestation. During the course of plan development, the fifth five-year plan, 75 to 98, put greater stress on the contribution of forest to the economic, social, and industrial development of the country. Now the main objective of the recent 15th five-year plan, 19 to 24, production of 13 crore based industries. National policy related with other allied sectors in Nepal. The first one, industrial policy 2011. The main objectives of the policy to increase export and industrial products along with growth in national income and employment through enhancing quality and competitive industrial product and productivity. To increase the contribution of industrial sector in the balanced national and regional development by mobilizing local resources, methods, skills, and means. To establish industrial entrepreneurship as a sustainable and reliable sector by utilizing latest technology and environmental friendly production process to protect industrial intellectual property. These are the main by the industrial policy. And the trade policy. 2015 trade policy is an economic policy which is concerned with those decisions, studies, and instruments which influence the foreign trade of the economy vision to achieve economic prosperity by enhancing the contribution to trade sector to national export promotion, life is goal. And the objective of this trade policy is related to the timber to extend the supply side capacity and minimize the trade deficit by increasing exports of value-added competitive products and service in the world market, to enhance access to of goods, services, and intellectual property to regional and world markets. That will be help for the timber-based policy in Nepal. The other one is National Employment Policy 2015. The vision of this policy is the long-term vision of the National Employment Policy is to contribute to poverty alleviation by making the national economy strong and vibrant by involving the country's available labor force in productive, decent, and safe employment through means a capable labor market by the making them competitive. The main objectives are as follows: to create suitable opportunities for preparing knowledge and skill-based labor opportunities as for the need of the labor market, to appropriately manage migrant and immigrant workers, to accord priority to the creation of employment opportunities targeted to the youth, to strengthen the labor market by using modern research-based information technology. Now the discussion: the transformation of country into federal structure with three types of governments can get many problems during implementation of those mentioned policies. There exists a huge gap between the demand and supply for wood. Around 29.3 million cubic feet of timber was imported into the country from East Asian and other countries in 2015, while 37.6 million cubic feet of timber were not utilized or decayed in the country's forests. Additionally, in the fiscal year 2018 to 2019, Nepal spent rupees 6.61 billion against 5.56 billion in the previous year in the import of the forest products. Recommendations: the monitoring and evaluation of policies should be done during and after a certain time period for timely revise of policy. All three level governments should focus on formulation of required acts, regulations, and guidelines for effective implementation of the formulated policy. The policies should be interlinked and may smoothly guidable to have further acts and regulations. Conclusion: several plans and policies have been formulated related to timber and allied sectors to guide the nation. The forest policy focuses sustainable management of forests to utilize the forest resources. The increasing demand of timber and its increasing price rate force the government to remove the pollution related to timber. There's likewise these policies based in forest and other allied sectors will guide the nation for the betterment of the timber-based industries and production of timbers. These are the references which I have used. Okay, thank you very much for your patience. Please, suggestions and questions are heartily welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dotendra brother, for such a nice presentation. Your time was 9 minutes 53 seconds. Now I'd like to open the floor for my colleagues if there is any query regarding the presentation of Mr. Dotendra Gole.
Yes. I have one query.
Okay.
First of all, thank you. Very nice presentation, Dotendra Bhai. You have shown in your slide the government aim to produce 13 crore cubic feet wood at the end of 50 plan. Instead of that, I think there will be 3 crore cubic feet wood instead of 13.
Okay, thank you very much. Here is being a little problem for me in the setting.
Okay, thank you, Ghanshyam Bohra, for your feedbacks. Now I'd like to open the floor for our teachers, Vijay sir and Tilak sir. Hello, Tilak sir and Vijay sir.
I'm really sorry because I'm really sorry. I could not follow the presentation because like I had a internet connection. I was going logged out and logged in back in. So sorry, I could not.
Okay, sir,
give
no
any
worries.
input
Vijay sir.
this presentation.
Thank you, Dharan ji, for your nice presentation. If you are also include the gap between the forest policy or the timber marketing policy and field application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dotendra brother and our sir. Please stop the sharing. Dotendra brother.
Here has been a problem.
Stop sharing.
I'm being.
Okay, now Sweta, are you ready?
Okay, Dai, I'm ready due to unstable
Okay.
connection. I could not present earlier.
Okay, just share your screen and move on. The floor is yours.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, your screen is visible and you are audible.
One greeting to all. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected module coordinator, sir, all the teaching faculty, my seniors, and friends connected virtually for the term paper presentation of forest product utilization. The topic for my presentation is timber grading in Nepal and international level. The outline follows the introduction and ends with the references. Now, introduction. As we know, an intelligent or brilliant choice of the timber for certain or specific choice or purpose or use is known as the grading of the timber. Grading a log entails an evaluation of the quality of the log and hence that timber can be sawn from that log. Grading helps us to classify not only individual piece of timber of a particular species, but also groups or set of species according to their properties of product. The log grade assists buyers and sellers to settle on a fair price for a particular log by assigning a value to the log based on the grading rules. The grading rules should be simple to understand so that they can be applied quickly and accurately. Generally, a graded log will fetch a higher price than a similar ungraded log of the same species because the grading process has given the log a definable value. In our context, government of Nepal had published a gazette on 23rd of Just 2068 BS, which consists the grading system to be employed in Nepal for the purpose of pricing of logs and poles. The basis for the grading were the percentage of sawn timber produced of logs without defects and the length and girth of the logs. The grading separates logs into quality groups, providing a way in which the buyers and sellers can agree on value, provide a fair price for the logs, establishing a clear understanding of what the buyer is paying for. While grading, there are some grade defects, but the grade defects should not be confused with the scaling defects. The scaling defects are those that reduce the volume of the sound wood that can be obtained from a log, and the grading defects are those that take away from the appearance or limit the usefulness of the wood obtained from the log for the intended purpose. In Nepal, grading system provided by the TCN established in 1960s and Forest Regulation 1995 is implemented. Internationally, there are some grading rules for different countries, such as National Hardwood Lumber Association rules from the US, the British Columbia lumber grading rules from the US, the British Columbia lumber grading and Quebec grading rules from Canada, the Finnish grading rules and the Malayan grading rules are some of the well-known grading rules for different countries in the world. The objective of my term paper presentation is to overview the timber grading system in Nepal and international level. The methodology includes the secondary data sources that include different published and unpublished articles, books, policies from website, the review of the Forest Regulation 1995, and the Indian guiding principle for grading and inspection of timber provided by the Bureau of Indian Standards was also reviewed. The Western Lumber Grading Rules 2021 and similarly log grading system for the LAO PDR countries were also reviewed. In the context of Nepal, Timber Corporation Nepal is the largest and only timber selling organization. However, it is not widely accepted and always practiced, but the grading criteria is adopted by the TCN is as the first class is graded when 3 to 4 logs of 10 feet length is obtained, and second class is graded if at least one log of 10 feet length is obtained. The Forest Regulation of Nepal have clearly specified the log grading system based on their length, diameter, and estimated percentage of sawn wood recovery. Those logs are classified as A grade if the length of the log is greater than 7 feet, greater than 6 feet diameter underbark, and defect up to 2 holes, and sawn timber recovery is greater than 65%. Here in the table, we can see for in case of the SAL, the timber is graded A if the length is greater than 7 feet, girth is greater than 6 feet, and defects should not be more than 2 holes if attacked by insects, and sawn timber recovery should be more than 65%. Similarly, for grade B, the defects are the 5 holes, knots, split, check, hollow in bark, and the sawn recovery should be 40% to 65%. In international context, most countries and regions have their own sets of grading rules with different rules for different species, that is hardwood and softwoods. For Philippines, the grading rules for Philippine logs were formulated in 1964 and encompass 4 grades of veneer logs and 3 grades of saw logs. Grading in Philippines is based solely on the percentage yield of the sound volume. Similarly, for Sri Lanka, there are 2 systems for grading hardwood logs, the yield system and the defect system. The yield system, in the yield system, the sound clear volume of the log is used to determine quality, that is percentage of sound volume as compared to the total log volume. And in the defect system, this system is based on the unit of defects to give a quantitative indication of the approximate degrade of the utilizable material associated with each defect. In India, timber grading is done using Indian Standard 6534/1971 provided by the Bureau of Indian Standards 1972. All the grading specifications are clearly distinguished between the structural or stress grading and commercial or utility grading. Structural grading can be further divided as grading based on the known effects of defects and estimating of accumulative value, and machine grading. Similarly, commercial or utility grading, or also known as the yarn grading, refers to the principle by which the material is graded by consideration of the usefulness of the material and price factors. Commercial grading is further classified as the grade A, B, C, and D. Grade A is based purely on general appearance, and this is prevalent in the Kerala and Mysore parts of the India. Similarly, grade B is based on the best ultimate use of the logs or converted material. It is most prevalent in the Andhra Pradesh and some parts of Tamil Nadu, and seems to be one of the quickest system of grading and marking. The grade C is based on the qualitative evaluation of the defects and rough estimate of outturn of utilizable material. It is prevalent in the Madhya Pradesh state of the India. And grade D is based purely on the evaluation of the unit of defects and fixing the number of units permissible for a standard volume in each grade. It is common in the Bombay region, recently known as Mumbai in India. Similarly, the grading rules provided by the Southeast Asia Lumber Producer Association is also prevalent in the world. The Southeast Asia Lumber Producer Association member countries are the Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines. In the 1980, the group developed standardized grading rules for hardwood logs other than the teak. At the high value level, the grading separates logs into 3 pillar log grades, that is special pillar grade, primer pillar grade, and the second one, primer pillar grade. For the special pillar grade, the diameter must be greater than 60 centimeter or larger and at least 8 meter long. And for the remaining 2 pillar classes, the diameter must be 50 centimeter or greater, and the length reduces to a minimum of 2.5 meter. Additionally, there are 5 saw log grades and a wood chip class, that is the prime saw log grade, standard saw log grade, log saw log grade, sawable log grade, short logs, and wood chips. The lowest defined log grade is the wood chip, and this grade will select a log not covered by any of the grades above it. As the slide content would be heavier, I have not mentioned of other countries, but I would like to say in case of Burma, log grading to value add for teak began in Burma in mid-1930s. In 1988, new set of rules was formulated by Myanmar Timber Enterprise, and these became known as the grading rules for teak veneer logs. The 5-star is graded for the special quality veneer, 4-star for the first quality veneers, 3rd star for second quality veneers, 2-star for the 3rd quality veneer, and 1st star for the 4th quality veneer. Similarly, for the Australia, log grading in Queensland is detailed and explained well in the Native Forest Hardwood Saw Log Classification Guidelines. The logs are graded based on their length, diameter, and quality. They are mainly categorized as the compulsory and optional logs. The theme of the compulsory and optional logs is prevalent in the Australia. These compulsory logs are the good quality logs that harvesting contractors must accept with the standard specification, and optional logs are considered flexible logs. Compulsory logs in Queensland are termed as quota logs in New South Wales. In New South Wales and Queensland, the primary purpose of log grading is to segregate logs into fit for use categories. In Indonesia, in case of Indonesia, grading is based on the estimated sound volume yield of timber that will result from converting the log. The grading is governed by the form of the log, the abundance, the location, and the relationship between the defects and size of the logs. Similarly, United States of America uses the University of Tennessee Hardwood Log Grading Handbook. The Canada uses the Quebec Log Grading Rules, and Malaysia uses the Sabah Log Grading Rules. Now, coming to the conclusion and recommendation, the rules for timber grading in Nepal has evolved almost a decade ago, but there is still room for further improvement and need more policing. Key stakeholders, including the General Manager of the Timber Corporation in Nepal and representatives of FinFit, commented that the existing log grading system are not harmonized to the utilization standards trend of the market. Grading is a visual process. Graders have difference of opinion to meet the provisions of nature. Sometimes the written rules are not adequate. Then it is for the experienced grader to use his discretion in the field. Although the subsequent amendments of the forest regulation have changed a number of other rules, including the revenue rate of the timber and non-timber forest species or products, specification of timber grading have not been changed. Market conditions set prices, and prices influence the grading. It would be advisable not to adjust the grading to the fluctuating price. Graders tend to relax the rules a bit or apply them more strictly under such situation. Let the prices rise or fall as the market sway, but grading should be constant. It would be endless to comment on grading, but as a means of providing good service, the improvement of the rules should never end. These are some of the references. Any constructive ideas and feedbacks are highly appreciated. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, thank you, Sweta, for your nice presentation. Your time was 11 minutes 49 seconds. Okay, now I want to open the floor for my colleagues if there is any query regarding our presentation. You can just speak up if there is. Okay, I think there is no query. Okay, now I'd like to open the floor for our teachers, Vijay sir and Tilak sir.
No comments because I was again out of the internet.
Okay, sir. Vijay sir.
I think the grading system depends upon the demand and supply of the fresh products. The rule make between the different organizational, institutional, or government sector. In the combination of these sectors, a rule may be made for the futures. Our contains of some grading rules before in the beginning TCN and Nepal Fresh Product Board and governance sector should be made, and after nowadays some modification also in our contents, and mainly sawn timber is graded in the 2 or 3 grades in the Sagarnath. And also grading system is also the necessary in the when the evaluation of the fresh product in the inventory period. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sweta, please stop your sharing your screen. Okay, now I would like to call next presenter, Mr. Manoj Kumar Mandal. Are you ready?
Yeah, I am ready.
Okay, you can share your screen. The floor is yours now.
Is my screen visible?
No. Yes, it's coming. Okay, it's visible and you are audible. Yes, you can start.
Okay, thank you, Suresh. Respected campuses, sir, M.Sc coordinators, sir, model coordinators, sir, and all my dear batchmates. I am Manoj Kumar Mandal, and today I am here to present my term paper presentation on the topic effect of timber harvesting on forest soil and regeneration. This is the presentation outline, followed by introduction, objective, methodology, result and discussion, conclusion, and references. Moving on to introduction. The growing renewable resources sector is driving demand for forest biomass and the intensification of forest land use, resulting in shorter crop cycle, more densely replanted forest, and increased harvesting of residual woody biomass. Timber harvesting is extremely difficult, expensive, and time-consuming operation. Focusing on forest harvesting, it is important to consider high productivity, economic aspect, a low negative impact on the environmental aspect, and safe working condition for forest operators. The operation of logging equipment alters several soil physical properties, particularly structure, porosity, density, pore size distribution, aeration, water retention, infiltrability, and hydraulic conductivity. It is important to underline that soil is highly sensitive to improper logging activities, and the soil environment could suffer substantially over a long period of time, thereby affecting forest productivity and ecosystem efficiency. The impact of forest regeneration is more complex to evaluate directly. Favorable compaction affects the growth of plants by a combination of physical soil changes and plant physiological dysfunction. Logging activities can inhibit regeneration in cascade forests. For example, soil compaction and displacement of topsoil due to logging is thought to be responsible for decreased potential for establishment and subsequent growth of tree regeneration in forest. On the other hand, in other studies, the improvement requirement of seedling and sapling was observed in areas where soil had been scarified or modified by logging activities. So this particular aspect of forest operation substantiality is very difficult to analyze unequivocally in the short period of time after an operation. Moving on to objective, the main objective of my term paper is to overview the effect of timber harvesting on forest soil and effect of timber harvesting on regeneration. Methodology, secondary data were the source for my research. For secondary data source were the various published and unpublished articles were the source. Moving on to result and discussion, effects of timber harvesting on forest soil. Soil plays a crucial role in forest ecosystem by transmitting nutrients and water, providing energy flow that are linked to forest productivity and sustain biodiversity. How soil is disturbed. The physical, chemical, and biological properties of the forest soil changes as a result of harvesting operation. Chemical and biological changes occur after physical modification, and the physical properties of the soil are the most prominent indicator of soil disturbance following the use of the logging equipment. A harvesting operation can lead to a reduction in the soil porosity, increased soil erosion, and a decrease in the root penetration and length expansion. One of the most important factors influencing soil impact intensity is the level of mechanization, as well as machine weight and the type of the operations, that is either skidding or either forwarding. Extent of disturbance. The extent and severity of the soil disturbances during harvesting operation depends on the several factors that can be divided into three groups: stand condition, extracted timber volume, soil type and texture, soil moisture content, soil organic matter content, site topography, stand density, and canopy extension. Yard logistic, harvesting system, advanced level of logging operation planning, type of the machine, logging methods, machine and load mass, tire pressure, vibration transmitted by vehicles, intensity of machine traffic, weather condition during a skidding operation, training experience, and expertise of the operators, as well as planning and worker proficiency. Forest road network characteristics, density of the road and skid trails, slope gradient also cause some disturbances. This is the result of various studies of the impact of mechanized harvesting on forest soil shows that the change to the soil can be vary from very low to very high, limiting and preventing disturbances. Machine traffic should be carried out during dry and favorable weather condition by reducing the number of the load passes, implying ameliorative site preparation, application of the straw and sawdust mulch following operation, skidding operations. Traditional animal power with a low impact on the soil can be used for timber extraction in steep terrain condition. Effect of timber harvesting on regeneration. Timber harvesting represents a key factor in the ecological management of stand, changing in negative or positive way stand structure and species diversity. Effects on seedling growth. The felling of trees and opening of the canopy increases the intensity of the light reaching the forest floor, and the establishment and growth of the tree vegetation is positively affected. However, in some research, it was found that the germination rate had a strong negative correlation with an increase in soil bone density. Moreover, germination rate and growth could be significantly reduced by the number of passes and the trail slope gradient. Soil scarification can increase the success of natural regeneration, but at the same time, soil compaction can reduce the establishment of regeneration and growth of regeneration. Extent of damage. The share of regeneration that can be damaged during different logging system can vary from several percent to more than 60. The frequency of damage is more for seedling, followed by small sapling and large saplings in scalar extraction. Sant Kurche et al. Studied the damage of regeneration using two systems, a tower cable system combined with farm tractor and a skidder in a mature sports stand. The damage of regeneration using the tower cable system was lower than using the skidder system. Most damage to regeneration using the tower cable system occurred on the shortest regeneration, while skidder logging usually affect the regeneration of medium height, that is 0.5 to 4 meter, limiting and preventing damage to regeneration. Considering the failing season, there is usually less damage during the winter month, limiting or concentrating machine activities on skid trails and access corridor. A detailed planning strategy will reduce damage to a level which is acceptable and predictable. A post-harvest inventory of soil and stand damage and prioritization of contractors that have a good level of training should be carried out for the reduced impact logging. Moving on to conclusion, soil damage seems to be the most difficult to avoid. Any machine or animal power has impact on the soil, especially at the stage of timber extraction. Soil disturbances includes a change in the physical properties followed by modification in the chemical and biological properties. Damage expansion generally depends on the method of forest operation and the machine used, mainly the weight, load, and the number of passes. Ground-based extraction transport system where timber has direct contact with the soil usually cause more damages to regeneration than other systems such as forwarding or aerial transport. It might be concluded that damage caused by the logging can be reduced by means of better timber harvesting planning and well-controlled harvesting techniques. These are the references. Thank you for your patience. Any queries, suggestions are heartily welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you Manoj Kumar Monda for your nice presentation. Your time of presentation is 8 minutes 58 seconds. Okay, now I want to open the floor for my colleagues. If there is any query regarding his presentation, you can just speak up. Okay, let's move on to our teachers now.
Thank you, Manoj.
Thank you, sir.
For your nice presentation. We have also indicate forest harvesting. If you are harvest of forest in any patch or any area, there are also a positive or negative impact. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then what you should be considered before the harvesting or make a harvesting plan? What sector you be consider? How many things should be considered?
Yeah, that will be depends on the objective or how much timber we are harvesting from that area. On that basis, we'll make up.
I think maybe about social aspect or economic aspect or even all these things are be considered. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. And Mr. Manoj, please stop sharing your screen. Now I would like to call next presenter, Mr. Sulabh Koirala. Sulabh, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, the floor is yours now. Okay.
So first of all, good afternoon to our respected teachers and my dear batchmates. It's me, Sulabh Koirala, and I am here to discuss my term paper on National Forest Policy Review along with Acts, Regulation and Plans. So these are the outline of my presentation from introduction to references. So in a simple way, in a simple way, policy is just a proposed course of action in order to reach a certain goal, and it is simply the declaration of vision, mission, goal, objective, course of behavior and action. And in other words, it is just a long-term vision in pursuit of public interest. And in international context, our Nepal forestry policy sector is guided by United Nations Strategic Plan for Forest that has been implemented from 2017 to 2013, and it consists of 6 global forest goal and 26 associated target that has to be achieved by 2030. So this is the chronology of forest policy development in Nepal. It starts from 1957 Private Forest Nationalization Act that carried nationalization of private forest in of our country. Then came 1973 NPWC Act. It has been amended 5 times up to now. Then came National Forestry Plan. It recognized for the first time ever people's participation in forest management. And then 1978 emergence of community forestry, and in 1998 NCS, 1999 MPFS. It has guided for 21 years. Ended in 2011. It has six primary program, 6 overlay program. In 1993, then came Forest Act. It has been amended 2 times. In 1995, it came Forest Regulation. It is in presence up to now. It has been amended 5 times up to now. Then came NBSAP 2014-2020. It has already expired in 2020. But now its review will be carried out. And now in 2017, obviously CITES Act. In 2019, it is a existence policy, that is National Forest Policy. Now, my simple objective of my term paper was to review of policy, plan, act, and regulation regarding national forest in context of Nepal, especially from the viewpoint of forest product utilization. So I have my methodology. I have gone through various policies, act, regulation, and many more documents, which I will be present detail in discussion part. So in discussion part, first of all, let's come to Constitution of Nepal. In Constitution of Nepal, among 31 fundamental rights, there is in Article 31 particular right, that is right to live in clean environment. It says that every citizen shall have the right to live in clean and healthy environment, and they have a right to obtain compensation. And if I have to talk about Part 4, that is directive principle, policy and obligation of state. And among 31 national policies, in 51 years, it is policy related to development. It says that development would be environment friendly, sustainable, and with the help of public, and it must involve public people participation. And in G, it is policy relating to protection, promotion, and use of natural resources. It says that there must be environment friendly and sustainable use of natural resources. And when I say natural resources, I mean forest, wildlife, bird, vegetation, and biodiversity. And in another policy, it is policy related to tourism. Again, it is eco-friendly tourism with protection of natural and cultural heritage of Nepal. And now these are the schedules of Nepal Constitution. I just want here to point at that the word forest is written in among almost every schedule. It says that if for a just particular in list of federal power, national forest policies, and list of provincial power, it is that national forest under within the province will be under provincial power. And it is forest conservation area, that Bon Sanrakshan Kshetra, that stretching inter-province form is under Song plus province, that is federation plus province. And in concurrent power means above all 3 power, it is written up first. It has created a very much large confusion and conflict, which I will again discuss later on in my conclusion. So about 15th 5-year plan, what are we expecting at the end of 2023? We are expecting that community-based forest management will share about 45% of national forest by the end of 2023. And obviously forest area will be maintained at 40.72%, and obviously protected area under 23%. And number of community forest user group, it will increase by 2,000. Right now we have 22,000. It will under 22,000. 2,000. It will be 24,000. And 14 large or medium-sized timber or non-timber industries would be established, and 10 obviously wildlife farm will be established. And now, and very important, 1.5 crore. Right now we are producing 1.5 crore cubic feet of timber every year. At the end of 5-year plan, that is at the end of 2023, we will produce 3 crore, at least 3 crore cubic feet timber annually. And at the end of 2043, what are we expecting? At the end of 2043, that is our long-term vision, we are expecting this 45% to become 75%, and we are expecting this 3 crore to become 13 crore. So now come to economic survey. It is the latest economic survey. It says that if I have to talk about the contribution of forest sector in GDP, our GDP is calculated on the primary sector, that includes agriculture, forestry, fisheries. And in this running fiscal year, GDP is 25.8%. And now obviously if 44%, if our Nepal's forest area has to be distributed, allocated per person, then one person will get obviously 0.2 hectare. It is according to economic survey. And obviously in this running fiscal year, there are the total wood production of 7.2 million cubic feet. And if compared from previous fiscal year up to now, wood import has decreased by 35%. It is very good news. And about 1265 anti-species sample has been certified and recommended for export. Now come to budget speech. Our budget speech actually that SFM national standard will be made and executed, and about presidential conservation program 1.53 billion has been allocated. and in particular of utilization, enhancing commercial production, processing, certification, and marketing of NTFP such as Rudraksha, Chiraito, Srikhanda, Panchole, and Bodhicitta will be proposed, and there will be research center that will be established for Panchole, Yarsa, Gumba, and Kesar, and obviously 10.5 million trees of afforestation would be carried out in Suri and Taramodes, and obviously Forestry for Prosperity program will be carried out in province number 2 and I think of Lumbini province. About FSS, what are we expecting by the end of 2025? We are expecting forest under community-based management guideline will increase from 39.7% to 60%, including all modalities. And about the 60%, 40% will have community forest, 4% collaborative forest, 1.5% of legal forest, and in peculiar to enterprise and economic development. Our GDP is not yet quantified; it will be quantified. And now, from 2 lakh full-time employment, from 2 lakh full-time equivalent job, we are going to increase it up to 12 lakh equivalent job, and about 3 lakh meter cube of timber that has been commercially supplied, we are increasing this value to about 10 lakh meter cube of timber that have been commercially supplied, and from 6 billion we are increasing the annual export value of NTFP map at 12 billion, and obviously UNPRL and 3 regional laboratory will be constructed. About national forest policy, obviously it was approved by Council of Ministers, and it consists of 11 objectives and 8 policies, and following are the policies that are land ownership of forest, sustainable and participatory management of forest resources, green industry development and its contribution to national prosperity, conservation of biodiversity, water environmental services and rate laws, forest also national forest, research and capacity building, social security, professional representation, and good governance. So now come to Forest Act. What does Forest Act say? Forest Act has differentiated national forest into 8 types given as here, and 3 types of forest product, 5 types of environmental services. And what has it said? DF officer is a federal government and DF office is a provincial government, and it has mentioned public forest, that is Sarvajanik Ban, and urban forest for the very first time. Sagarnath Forest Development Project, leasehold forest and wetland is a federal government, and if I speak about what is the leasehold forest, then it will be allocated at most 40 years to the local community, and forest having ground cover less than 20% will be handed as leasehold forest, and obviously operation plan of CF fully approved by DFO and of collaborative by PFD, that is province forest director, and at least 25% income of community forestry and collaborative forest it will be spent on conservation, and remaining on other poverty alleviation, women empowerment and industrial development, and so on. So now forest regulation. One of the main provision of forest regulation is that it has made provision of district forest product supply committee. It is, I think, it consists of 6 members, chairperson being DFO, and according to forest regulation 5th amendment, if I talk about schedule 26 and schedule 27, it has differentiated, it has allocated 23 timber species, 13 NTFP species, and 2 other species. If we have to harvest for harvesting and transport of these species, we don't need permission of DFO. For a particular, it is eucalyptus, teak, and neem and epilipil, and so as Zorbuti, it is for NTFP it is Rita, Lopsy, and Oniponpadar it is, and for others it is Omriso and bamboo. So now, according to Nepal Gazette 2075, that has been published in Part 3. If any notice of regulation has to be published, it will be always published under Part 3 of Nepal Gazette. Then it has allocated latest price for Sati Sal, and many more. And it has also allocated some of the royalty rate of NTFP, such as Yarsa Gumba, that is, I think, 30,000 per kg, and Panchole, I think, 500 per piece. Now, what I want to hear so is Local Government Operation Act, that is Sthaniya Sarkar Sanchalan. This is the part where our Forest Act and this act actually contradicts, because what it says, according to chapter 3 of this Local Government Operation Act, it says about right of municipality and local government. It says that management of forest will be done under the right of municipality and rural municipality. So it is one of the contradiction, and other contradiction I have already mentioned. In our constitution, in almost every schedule, there is presence of the word forest. So here is a lot of confusion and contradiction, and here is other condition is a Mines Act.
10 minutes.
If mining has to be done under forest, under this Mine Act, then we have to take the permission of, I think, of Department of Mine. But our Forest Act says that we have to take the permission of Nepal government. When I say Nepal government, I mean federal government. So these are my conclusion and recommendation. After the review of plant policy, act and regulation of forestry, it can be clearly found that there is urgent need to formulate new forest regulation, because as we have already introduced federalism, there are many contradiction and duplication in forest related laws starting right from constitution, which I have already discussed. There must be a proper coordination among every level of government for effective implementation of forest related laws. Laws should be specifically more specific. There should be proper and effective sharing of power in order to remove contradiction and duplication, and there must be monitoring of forest related laws specific time period. So these are my references. So thank you very much. Queries and suggestions are heartily welcome.
Thank you, Sulabh Koirala, for your nice presentation. Your time of presentation is 11 minutes, 6 seconds. Now I want to open the floor for my colleagues. If there is any query regarding his presentation, you can just speak up. Okay, I like to welcome Mr. Yogendra Yadav sir also. I have not noticed that. If I am late, then I apologize for that. Okay, now I want to open the floor for our teachers.
Thank you, Subhas. I am listening.
Okay,
all of your presentation. I think all of you are best presentation. So I am just a little bit suggestions after all presentation. Little bit some, and some of the you are very excellent. So if I pointed out in last, I just suggest you of all.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. It's okay. Okay, Tilak sir and Vijay sir, if there is any query and feedbacks or suggestions, then.
Thank you, Sulabh. That's nice presentation, and I don't have a query or any suggestion regarding the policies. So that's a nice presentation anyway.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sulabh.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Sulabh. You can now just stop share your screen. Now let's move on to next presenter, Mr. Sher Buda. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, the floor is yours now. You can just share your screen.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah, your screen is visible and you are audible. You can start now.
Thank you so much, respected teacher, module coordinator, my batchmate. My name is Sher Buda. Today I am here to present wood structure, wood anatomical structure, and its role in growth and development of vegetation. Here are the outline of my presentation, which includes introduction, objective, methodology, result and discussion, conclusion, and references. Moving toward the introduction, wood is principal strengthening and nutrient conducting tissues of trees and other plants, and one of the most abundant and versatile natural material. Wood is a complex biological structure, a composite of many chemistries and cell types acting together to serve the need of a living plant. Wood produced by many botanical species, including gymnosperm and angiosperm. The basic fact that wood evolved over a course of millions of years to serve three main functions. That means conduction of water from the root to the leaves, mechanical support to the plant body, and storage of biochemicals. From the outside of the tree to the inside are the outer bark, inner bark, vascular cambium, sapwood, heartwood, and the pith. The wood structure varies between species within the genera and reflecting phylogenetic and ecological background of species. Objective: the general objective of my term paper is to overview the wood anatomical structure and its role in growth and development of vegetation. And the methodology of my presentation was the articles, books, and other internet sources. Result and discussion. First of all, anatomical structure of wood can be divided into two major types. One is the gross structure and another is the minute structure. The gross structure of the wood are those structures which can seen by naked eye. The gross structure of wood are also called macro structure. Is we have the piece of freshly felled logs, then we can see the bark, sapwood, heartwood, pith, growth ring, and this can be considered as the gross structure of wood. One is the bark. Bark arise from species to species in their color, in their appearance. Bark further divided into two types, two parts. One is the outer bark made by dead and dying tissues, whereas inner bark is made by living tissues and perform the roles of conduction and storage of food material. Bark of some species is smooth type, whereas some species bark is fissure, crack, and exfoliation type. For example, we can take a bark of Eucalyptus camaldulensis and Sima wallichiana and compare their outer covering bark. The bark of Eucalyptus is smooth type and light in color, whereas Sima wallichiana bark is crack type and fissure types. Another gross structure of wood is the
Hello.
Hello, Sherji. Hello, hello. Are you there? Hello. I think internet problem.
Maybe.
Okay, let's move on to next presenter then. Okay, I'd like to call Mr. Ghanshyam Bora to present his presentation here. Okay, the floor is yours. Okay, your screen is visible.
Thank you, Subha sir.
Okay, continue.
Namaste and welcome to all in this term paper presentation session. Today I am going to present my term paper of forest product utilization on topic opportunity and challenge of reduced impact logging. The outline of presentation is like this: start with introduction and end with conclusion and recommendation. Introduction. Most logging operations in the tropical rainforest are still doing conventional loggings without considering ecological and economical impacts. Conventional loggings means the logging by untrained logger. Tropical foresters have been trying to reduce avoidable risks to worker and deleterious environmental impact of selective logging on residual stand and soil for many years. But the term reduced impact logging was first used in 1993 by Foods and Pinners. RIL can be defined as intensively planned and carefully controlled timber harvesting conducted by trained workers in a way that minimizes the deleterious impact of logging. It is a management practice to reduce damage while maximizing sustainability. Implementation of RIL and appropriate silviculture system can maintain forest productivity and sustainability. RIL guidelines and code of practice were developed by many organizations and countries like IUCN, FAO, CIFOR, ITU, Malaysia, Brazil, Indonesia, Bolivia, Peru. Though scientific forest management guidelines were prepared and implemented in Nepal, but systematic RIL guidelines were not prepared till now in Nepal. The ecological benefit of RIL related to conventional logging are to reduce soil damage and residual stand, protect water quality, mitigate fire risks, improve regeneration status and nutrient. Pinners and Foods in 1996 demonstrated the experiment in dipterocarp forest, and the result shows that the RIL technique reduced the damage by at least 30 to 50% in comparison to normal operation, that is conventional logging. The objective of this term paper is to overview the concept of RIL guidelines and its opportunity and challenge to implement. For the methodology, I have called it only second data, which are published and unpublished. Moving to our result and discussion, reduced impact logging really is an intensively planned and carefully controlled implementation of timber harvesting operation to minimize environmental impact, forest stand, and soil. Although it varies somewhat in local situation, real in tropical forest or normally real flow following step. At first, pre-harvesting operation, inventory and mapping of trees will be done. Then planning of road, ski trail and landing to minimize the soil disturbance and also waterway over the stream to protect the streams will be done. Pre-harvest vine cuttings, especially woody climbers will be cut. The construction of road, landing and ski trail in accordance with pre-plans, environment friendly manners. The use of appropriate felling and working techniques, such as directional felling. Directional felling means fellings the tree in predetermined, as it determines in which direction we have to fell, and cutting the stem low to the ground to avoid waste, and optimal cross-cutting of stream into log in a way that minimize recovery of useful woods. The winching of logs to plan skid rail, ensuring that there is a skid machine like tractor and other machine. Where feasible, adding system may be used to protect soil and residual vegetation. Conducting post-harvest assessment to provide feedback to resource manager and logging crew, and to evaluate degree to which the real guidelines have been applied. And here is the reduced impact logging guidelines of Indonesia. It refers logging years. 83 means before logging, 3 years before loggings, there is the arrangement of working area, and 2 years before loggings, forest inventory, topographic survey, and deployment of tree location and contour map and road planning should be done. 1 year before loggings, logging plannings. In this plannings, there should be zoning of forest in production as well as exclusion area, and road construction, pre-logging field preparation. In the year of loggings, opening of landing area, that is landing is normally depot, and skid trails, it is a temporary road to carry the logs from felling area to the depot, and felling of bucking, landing and skid trail construction, skidding operation, bogging, deparking, and filing of log at landings, then measure transportation. After felling, they have to rehabilitate it, and finally inspection and reporting. That's some opportunity of reduced impact loggings. As I have been told that experiment in deep carpet forest demonstrate the result that real techniques reduce damage by at least 30 to 50% in comparison to normal operation, that is conventional loggings. The implementation of REAL is the fundamental component of sustainable forest management and a critical step to our forest certification. REAL operation shown that it is more financially favorable than conventional loggings, as there is a reduction of waste timbers. Holmes et al. In 2000s have demonstrated that properly planned and supervised harvesting operation not only meet the condition for sustainability, but also reduce harvesting costs by substantial margin as compared to conventional loggings. Really reduce the environmental damage, increase the safety to logger, and increase working efficiency. Hence, it is socially accepted to forest harvesting. Potential of reduced impact logging for climate change mitigation and forest productivity improvement. There are some challenges of reduced impact logging. The lack of trained human resources for field implementation of REAL. The well-trained logger need equally well-trained supervisors to supervise the logger. The perception that REAL systems are more expensive than conventional loggings. There is a failure of conventional logging cost accounting system to recognize direct and indirect cost associated with wastage wood. Ineffective government regulation and enforcement, lack of regulatory control over harvesting practice, and lack of clear financial benefit. Moving to our conclusion and recommendation. It is a systematic approach to planning, implementation, monitoring, and evaluating logging. REAL is implemented through code practice and guidelines that includes normally the activities such as improve forest management planning, road construction, tree felling, walking, screening, and adding log adding practices. Implementation of REAL is a fundamental component of sustainable forest management and for the forest certification. Better recovery of potential merchantable timber volume using REAL techniques reduce the direct and indirect costs. Reduced impact logging is one of the means for reducing carbon emission. Hence, it helps in climate change mitigation. Lack of trained human resource for the field implementation and ineffective government regulation and enforcement are the key challenges of REAL practice. And standardized approach for calculating logging cost should be developed. All developing countries, including Nepal, should follow REAL guidelines for the sustainable management of forest. Thank you for your passage. Any suggestions are hardly welcome.
Okay, thank you, Ghanshyamji, for your nice presentation. Your time of presentation is 8 minutes 11 seconds. Okay, now I would like to open the floor for my colleagues. If there is any query regarding his presentation or any suggestions, feedbacks, you can just speak up. Okay, now let's move on to our teachers.
So it was a nice presentation. I really liked listening to your presentation about the reduced impact logging. So when we talk about the reduced impact logging, right, when you presented all the data or all the information, they were from abroad countries, right, not from the Nepal. So to understand how we could implement reduced impact logging in our own perspective, right, we still know that in our country we still use axe or the cart, or now we have started using the power chainsaw for the timber harvesting. So we still lack the engineering road, right? How do we plan skidding? How do we plan harvesting road networks? So you should also consider something just like to present when you are presenting. Yeah, it's like theoretical presentation, I completely understand, but like just to try to correlate to our own condition, how it can be applied in our condition. So where we don't have skidders, when we don't have the harvesters, we don't have the equipments running, right? So we have only harvesting limited to the Tarai region. So how could we plan the reduced impact logging in the mid hills, right? That we should also consider those things. So I would highly appreciate if you could just give a thought, like when you present about the reduced impact logging, general idea and how it can be implemented in our country.
In case of Tarai, we can implement REAL guidelines, but I think in hilly area, there might be difficulties due to topography of hilly area.
So,
there will be.
It was rather just a suggestion for you, not a question. Like, but like when you said like we could not implement.
Thank you, sir, for your information.
REAL in the hill areas, it's not that like we could not implement the REAL in the hill areas. We could also implement those REAL reduced impact logging in the hill areas, but it's only the matter of fact that it would cost us a lot. So it's not gonna be economically viable or feasible to conduct those things, or it might be even not feasible to harvest from the mid hills, because in order to harvest that and extract it and deliver it to the market, it's gonna increase the cost of the timber from the mid hills. So it's just a thought, like how could we do that? Just to make up in our mind, like when you go to the field, you have to do harvesting even in the hills, right? They are doing the harvesting, but it's not mechanized. It's not harvesting like clear felling where you do a lot of harvesting, so that we might not need the wheel, even the reduced impact logging in our case. But it's not it doesn't mean that it's not possible to implement rail in the mid hills.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. And thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Ghanshyamji. Okay, now I would like to call next presenter, Mr. Sher Burap. Please, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Okay, you can continue.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah, your screen is visible and you are audible. You can continue now.
I'm going to continue from result and discussion portion. First,
Okay.
the wood anatomical structure can be divided into two types mainly. One is the gross structure and another is the minute structure or micro structure. Gross structure are those structure of wood which can be seen by naked eye. One of the gross structure of the wood is the bark. Bark can be divided into two types. One is the two part, one is the outer bark and another is the inner bark. Outer bark is made by dead tissues, dead and dying tissues, whereas inner bark is made by living tissues and perform the function of storage of food material and also the conduction. The bark varies from species to species. In some species, the bark is light color, in some species dark color. Their appearance is different depending upon the species. Their thickness is also different. Here is the another gross structure of the wood, which is called sapwood and heartwood. Inside the inner bark, there is light color made by the living tissues, perform the function of storage of food materials called sapwood. And inside the sapwood, there is dark color of wood made by the dead tissues and provide the function of mechanical support is called heartwood. In some species, in several species, sapwood and heartwood cannot be easily differentiated. Such species are Avis pindo, Egli marmellus, Anthocephalus cadamba, Edina cordifolia, Bombaxiva, Magnifera indica, Terminalia tomentosa, etc. The sapwood is formed by the youngest growth ring, whereas heartwood is formed by the integration of the coloring compound such as gum, resin, and heartwood. Thus, the integration of coloring compound in the during the formation of heartwood, these coloring compound act as the natural preservatives. In general, the durability of heartwood is higher than the sapwood. The sapwood is affected by the insect and fungus due to the presence of food, starch, carbohydrate, etc. The discoloration of sapwood by fungus is known as sap stain, and the discoloration does not affect the strength of the wood. Here is the one another gross structure of the wood, which is called growth ring. Growth ring are the concentric rings generally found in the species from the temperate regions. Growth rings are useful for the counting their age, and the process of counting the age by the use of annual growth rings is called dendrochronology. Another is the spring wood and autumn wood. Within a complete concentric ring, the wood formed in the early season, that means spring season, is called spring wood, and the wood formed during the autumn season are said to be late wood or autumn wood. In spring wood, there is large number of vessels and pores, whereas in autumn wood, there is no vessels and pores. In comparison, autumn wood is compacted and denser than the spring wood. Another gross structure of wood is the pith. This is the small soft mass of tissues present in the center of wood made by the parenchymatous tissues, and pith has no any specific function to perform and has no also value for identification of the tree species. Minute structure of the wood. Minute structure are those structure of wood which cannot be seen by human eye. For the differentiation of minute structure, we need the compound microscope. Here are the in figure vessels or pores, tracheids, cambium rays are the minute structure of wood. Vessels are pores found in the broadleaf species in transverse section, perform the function of liquid sap conduction, whereas tracheids is a hollow needle-shaped structure and helps to perform the conduction and mechanical support in coniferous species. Cambium is the part of wood found inside the inner bark and outside the sapwood, and another is the rays, sometimes we call medullary rays. Medullary rays are the group of horizontally running cells radially from bark toward the center of the trees and perform the function of rising sap and descending food. Fiber is the another minute structure of wood, which is narrow, spindle-shaped, elongated cell with close end and provide the function of mechanical support in broadleaf species. Another is the tyloses. Tyloses, you can see in figure image, tyloses differ from species to species in their color, in their appearance. One main important function of tylosis is that if tylosis is present in any wood, it indicates its durability. Tylosis is mainly found in the hardwood. Ripple marks is another minute structure of wood, which is ovally perpendicular to grain and important for the identification of trees. In the image, we can see the beautiful picture of the ripple marks. So we can say that it has decorative purpose. It is important for decorative purpose. Another is the resin channel. Resin canal found in the mainly found in the coniferous species and also broadleaf species. Pith flakes are irregular patches of parenchyma cell, and ring porous. Another is ring porous and diffuse porous wood. Ring porous pores are found in the ring, then we call ring porous species, and pores are scattered in species we say diffuse porous species. Ring porous species are tonacillata, tectona grandis, Ross, whereas salix species has diffuse porous wood. Conclusion, the wood consists of mainly two types of structure having different role in growth and development of vegetation. Structure and chemical composition of wood affect its durability, resistance, are susceptible to fungal and insect attack. Gross structure of wood are also important for the identification of species. In general, the dead portion of mechanical strength, whereas living portion of the portion have role in conduction and storage of food material. Here are the differences. Thank you. Any suggestion and queries are heartily welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherji, for your nice presentation. Your total time was 11 minutes 45 seconds. Okay, previous one and this one total time. Okay, I'd like to open the floor for my colleagues. If there is any query regarding his presentation, any suggestion, feedbacks. Okay, I'd like to move on to our teachers now.
Thank you, Sir Bahadur, for your nice presentation. But I am a few suggestions for the division of the presentation. You are talking about the role of the growth structure of the wood in the growth and development. But you have only described the minute and growth structure in detail. You add some things like how can formation of the wood, what are the function of the minute and growth structure in the growth and development of the wood. Thank you. Please add these things.
Okay, thank you, sir. I will edit.
Okay,
some
thank you,
function
sir,
or
and
role
thank you,
of the
Sergi. Please stop sharing your
structure
screen.
in the. Okay.
Okay, next I would like to call Mr. Mohit Joshi. Mohit, are you ready?
Yes, Subhash Dai.
Okay, you can share your screen.
Is it visible?
Yeah, it's coming. Okay, it's coming. Wait. Okay, it's visible and you are audible.
Yes.
You can continue.
Good afternoon, respected teacher Vijay Yadav sir and Tilak Chaudhary sir, and respected all my colleagues. It's me, Mohit Joshi, and I'm here to deliver my term paper presentation on forest product utilization and in topic role of harvesting plan for sustainable forest management. These are my presentation outline: introduction, objective, methodology, finding and discussion, and conclusion. Timber harvesting. Timber harvesting is one of the main functions of silviculture treatment, which include the felling, extraction, logging of trees, and loading of trees and logs and other part of the trees. For the appropriate harvesting, a proper harvesting plan is required for the sustainable harvesting, because the proper harvesting plan provide a balanced and comprehensive foundation for the sustainable harvesting practices. For sustainable harvesting practice, both timber harvesting and harvesting practices, both timber harvesting practices and harvesting plan must be socially acceptable, economically feasible, and environmentally sound from the sustainability point of view. Improper plant logging activity may cause various ecological damages to trees and seedling. Soil disturbance, erosion, compaction, and the amount of land surface needed for the skid trails, rolls, and landing are the major impact on the nature. Various studies emphasize that the effect of harvesting activity have a negative impact on sustainability of the forest. To address this problem, the FAO, Code of Forest Harvesting Practices, was established as an instrument designed to improve the forest management, to ensure the better wood recovery from harvesting operations, and to minimize the forest damages arising from the logging operations. Objective: to study the role of harvesting plan for sustainable forest management. Methodology are based on the secondary data source, previous research finding, publications, result and discussion. Forest harvesting practices and their relative impacts are key concern for forest manager, environmentalists, and other stakeholders. Environmentally sound forest harvesting and transport operation are therefore essential component of sustainable forest. 6 areas are particularly critical from the sustainability standpoint. They are planning, road, felling and extraction, long distance transport, and post-harvest assessments. Some of the measures for the some of the measure of harvest for the sustainable forest management are appropriate harvesting plan. Meaningful harvest plan involve a good understanding of the objectives of the management plan, the harvesting system available, and the logistic required. In context of Nepal, forest management plan is a basic document for timber harvesting and the forest management activities, which acts as the key planning model for sustainable forest management. Some harvesting plan are site-specific forest use planning, planning levels, amendment to plans, planning staff, plan approval process, GIS, and the planning process. Effective and next is effective and efficient timber harvesting policy and laws. Conducive policy and laws, transparent process is in all critical points such as development of harvesting plan, tree marketing, wider participation of stakeholder during harvesting, equitable distributions of resource and opportunities, management of timber depot, auctions and transportation of timber contribute for the effective and efficient timber harvesting. The Forest Strategy 2016 and Forest Policy 2015 have envisioned the sustainable forest management as a means of increasing forest production and productivity through capacity building, improving in timber harvesting and harvesting of forest product and their wise use. Apart from the policy and plan so appropriate harvesting practices need to be adopted, which include reduced impact logging. Reduced impact logging can be defined as a timber harvesting technology and practices with the following main objective: minimizing impacts on environments and related social aspect, minimize the damage to potential future crop, provide safe working condition, and improve timber utilization and the recovery of the forest. The application of reduced impact logging has two goals.
to harvest the marketable tree as economically and safely as possible to achieve the desirable character of residual forest as they derive from ecological and to certain extent social requirement. Reduce impact logging comprise pre-harvest inventory, selection of merchantable trees, and design of infrastructure to felling, extraction, and hauling of the logs, and finally the post-harvest operations and the assessment. In this figure, we can see the difference between the conventional logging and the reduced impact logging. Where the conventional logging has disturbed the forest, disturbed the forest status, then the reduced impact logging. From the literature, reduced impact logging has damage by reduced impact logging techniques can reduce the damage by at least 30 to 50% in comparison of conventional logging, and also increase the financial profitability in comparison of conventional logging. Conclusion: harvesting plan made by considering the parameters such as land characteristic, diameter of the product to be transported, harvesting methods, and extraction conditions are effective measure for sustainable forest management. Logging has the largest impact of any silviculture treatment on the forest conditions. The adaptation of reduced impact logging system can be the first step in developing sustainable forest management in production forest due to its minimum damage to harvesting sites and economically profitable. For sustainable management of the forest management plan is a guiding document should be properly incorporate all three aspects of the forest management: social, environmental, and economic. Effective laws and policy regarding pre and post harvesting activities should be adopted. These are my references. Thank you. Suggestion and queries are hotly recommended.
Thank you, Mohit Joshi, for your nice presentation. Your time of presentation is 6 minutes. Okay, now I'd like to open the floor for our colleagues if there is any queries, suggestions regarding his presentation. You can speak up. Okay, now let's move on to our teachers. Hello, Bijay sir, Tilak sir.
Thank you, Mohit, for your nice presentation for the plan of the harvesting. Harvesting plan must be necessary. So in our country, it is also nowadays also include the harvesting plan before the management of the any forest patch of the area. You are also include in these things very better, that means real. And if you are also aid or some things from the ergonomy, it will make a better. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I will incorporate in my term paper.
Okay, thank you, sir, and thank you, Mohit. Okay, stop share your screen. Okay, now next, I'd like to call next presenter, Mr. Nimesh Pokhrel. Nimesh, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, you can share your screen.
Okay, is my slide visible?
Yeah, it's visible and you are audible. You can move on.
Good afternoon and namaste, respected teachers and my dear colleagues. Today I am here in front of you for my term paper presentation on the topic of wood treatment and its application in Nepalese context. Let's move on to introduction. Before we say anything about wood treatment, we have to first know about wood preservatives. Wood preservatives are a solution, mixture or compounds of inorganic or organic components that is used for preservative treatment of woods. Wood treatment refers to protecting wood from damage caused by insects, moisture, and decay fungi. Crews stated that wood treatment uses wood preservatives to impregnate the wood cells, making them resistant to decay, insects, weather, or fire. Treatment of wood has been practiced for almost as long as the use of wood itself. Wood is treated with the intent of prolonging its intended usefulness life cycle. Let's move towards objectives. The general objective of my study is to explore different wood treatments and its application in Nepalese context. Methodology. Secondary data was collected using various sources ranging from online publications of books, journals, and articles. Now let's move towards result and discussion. Wood treatments. There are two methods of wood treatments. They are non-pressure method and pressure method. Let's move toward pressure method, non-pressure method. As the name suggests, in this method, the preservative is inserted into woods without application of any pressure. This process is economical, saves a lot of preservatives, and can be performed with simple equipments. Non-pressure treatments include superficial applications such as brushing, spraying, pouring, dipping, coal soaking, thermal process, and charring. Now we can see in the figure brushing. Brushing, as the figure shows, the wood preservatives are coated in the surface of the wood using a brush. Penetration of preservative into woods is mostly from capillary action. The temperature should be warm enough to permit as much penetration as the process allows. The liquid should cover the surface thoroughly to fill checks and depressions. Wood treated in this manner can be protected for 1 to 5 years. Now let's move towards spraying. The wood preservatives are kept in a spraying container and sprayed in the surface of the wood. It is similar to the brushing, but is very easy to use and takes a lot less time than that of brushing. Dipping. Dipping consists of immersing wood in a preservative solution for several seconds to several minutes. It allows better penetration into checks and cracks of wood, but is unsatisfactory for users subject to abrasion. Usually, the dipping process is useful in the treatment of windows, sashes, and doors. Now let's move to our cold soaking. Cold soaking is similar to dipping, but in cold soaking, the wood is immersed from 2 to 7 days in a vat containing or low viscosity oil-borne preservative. It is very simple and relatively inexpensive. Now let's move towards steeping. Steeping is a process in which the wood is submerged in a tank of water, preservative mix, and allowed to soak for a longer period of time, which is several days to several weeks. The majority of absorption takes place during the first 2 or 3 days, but will continue at a slower pace in an indefinite period. As a result, the longer the wood left in the solution, the better the treatment it will receive. Now next, we go towards charring. Wood surface in this process are ignited using a handheld burner or slowly across a fire. Then it is cleaned using a steel brush, and then oil or varnish is applied. Charring of timber results in surface which are fire resistant, insect resistant, and proof against weathering. Thermal process. Thermal process consists of immersing of wood alternately in separate tanks containing heat and cold preservative. During the hot bath, air in the wood expands and some is forced out. Heating improves penetration of preservatives. Then it is taken to the cold bath, in which the air in the wood contracts, creating a partial vacuum in the wood. This treatment improves the properties of wood with respect to water, weather resistance, and decrease deformation. Now, let's move towards pressure method. Pressure processes are those in which the treatment is carried out in closed cylinders with applied pressure or vacuum. Pressure processes are the most permanent method around today in preserving timber life. Pressure treatment usually gives protection than non-pressure treatment. There are full cell and empty cell processes. Full cell processes. The full cell process provides maximum retention of preservative. A preliminary vacuum removes as much air from the wood as possible so that it will accept more liquid preservative. The heated preservative enters the cylinder without adding air, then pressure is applied until the required amount of preservative is retained by the wood. Now, empty cell process. Empty cell process is very similar to the full cell process, except the vacuum created at the end of the beginning instead of the beginning. So that excess preservatives come out from the wood. Application of treatment in Nepal. In Nepal, wood treatments are rarely used. Non-pressure methods such as brushing, spraying, dipping, coating are used in plywood industries. DOT, disodium octaborate tetrahydrate, has recently been introduced as a wood preservative for treatment. DOT is used as a preservative treatment to prevent future infection and deterioration, to protect exposed treated wood from excess rain and moisture. Now, these are my conclusions. Pressure processes are most permanent method around today in preserving timber life. Pressure treatment usually gives better protection about 5 to 10 times than the non-pressure treatment. However, non-pressure treatment may be satisfactory where pressure treatment is impractical or in situations where less protection is required and also is economical in compared to pressure treatment. The full cell process achieves a high level of retention of preservative in the wood cells, but less penetration than the empty cell process, and the empty cell process achieves relatively deep penetration with less preservative retention than the full cell process. Wood treatment methods have not been widely practiced in context of Nepal. These are my recommendations. Treated timber should be handled with sufficient care to avoid health hazard, unnecessary waste of preservatives, and breaking through the treated areas. During and after the treatment, the safety measures and rules should be strongly followed. In Nepal, wood treatments should be emphasized for better quality and longevity. Further study of wood treatment methods should be conducted. Here are my references. Thank you. Any queries and suggestions are heartily welcome.
Okay, thank you, Nimesh, for your nice presentation. Your time of presentation is 8 minutes 47 seconds. Now I'd like to open the floor for our colleagues. If you have any query and suggestions regarding Nimesh's presentation. Okay, let's move on to our teachers, Vijay sir and Tilak sir. Yogendra sir also.
Thank you, Nimesh. Your nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
You are also explored with the example also. I'm only a suggest for full example. Wood treatment plant nowadays established in the Chitwan. Before you are seeing a TCN, nowadays our Nepal Timber Nigam established a Chitwan near the district first division first office. Okay, and coal treatment plant established in a HID in Hetauda. Okay, both plants applied pressure method for the treatment of the wood. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Nimesh.
Thank you.
Now I would like to call anyone, if you are ready to present, you can present. Anyone? I have messaged in the chat box, but I think nobody has shown any interest. Okay, otherwise I can present right now. May I, sir? May I present?
Okay, best of luck.
Okay, sir. Okay, is my slide visible?
No, Subhash, but oh, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, our M.Sc coordinator Yogendra sir, and our module coordinator Bijay sir and Tilak Chaudhary sir for your presence. And my topic is timber value chain analysis of salin forest. My presentation outline is like this. Introduction. Now let's start with what is value chain. Value chain is a range of activities from production of primary goods to its final consumption. It starts with the field and it finally ends with the consumers, those who consume that product. And value chain encompasses any activity required to develop a product or services through various processes from resource extraction, production, processing, and manufacturing to final consumption and disposal. Okay, now why there is a need to study the value chain of sal? Okay, due to the high economic and social value of the sal forest is the most disturbed forest type in South Asia. Sal occupies 56% of the total timber entering in Kathmandu Valley. So far, only a few studies have been conducted on the value chain of timber in Nepal. So there is a need of study of value chain of timber. Okay, my objectives. The main objective of my term paper is to overview the timber value chain analysis of sal. Now, methods. Okay, my study was based on the secondary data. For this, I just use the internet sources. I used Google and Google Scholars to search and download various articles, literatures for my term paper, and just I reviewed them and I finally extracted the data relevant to my term paper. Okay, now let's move on to results. Timber value chain of a timber. Okay, value chain of a timber generally starts with the places where tree grows, followed by harvesting, collection, transportation, processing, and finally consumption. It is the typical value chain of a timber. Value chain comprises various actors, activities, processes, and various stages. In Nepal, mainly government institutions, private farmers, and forest user groups are involved in value chains. Most of the determining factors for value chains are land capital, ecological viability, time, cost, labor, and investment. In addition to timber producer, local intermediaries and brokers are also involved in harvesting, logging, and collection of the timber. And finally, small scale industries and forest-based enterprises such as sawmills, furniture are engaged in the conversion, processing, and manufacture of the timber. And finally, it leads to the consumption. Finally, the product will be distributed to the consumers for the consumption. Now let's move on to collection and supply channel of the sal timber. The first production and collection of sal timber is from the removal of dead and drying diseased trees, and it is being within the allowable harvest of respective forest regimes. And the timber harvested from the CFU is mainly distributed to the CFUG groups agreeing to their demand and the user group consumption. And finally, roughly 25% of the this remaining timber will be allocated to the district forest product supply committee. And if there is remaining amount left, then it will be gone. It will be gone to the auctioning open market. Next one is in case of the collaborative forest, the product, the timber harvested from them will be distributed 50% to collaborative forest management groups and divisional forest office, and this 50% will be according to their demand, community forest management groups for their user consumption, and 50% from the DFO will be allocated to the auction, and roughly 25% will be allocated for this district forest product supply unit committee. And in case of if there is TCN operating in the particular district, then DFO should ask permit from the TCN for the collection of the 3D trees from the government managed forest. Without the permission, they cannot do. And after collecting that timber, after harvesting the timber will be distributed 50-50% on the basis of 50-50. And from the DFO, it will be remaining amount will be auctioned to the open market. From the TCN, 50% of the sawn timber will be given to the prioritized individual consumption, and the remaining will be gone through the various auctioning opening market. And auctioning process for these district forest products supply unit and is also as same as the TCN, but only the difference is that TCN provides sawn timber and this DFPSC supply logs. Okay, now moving on to the value chain actors. Okay, different producers are there: timber producer, community forest, community collaborative forest, government managed forest. On the basis of these two, there is two market channel: open market channel and subsidized local market channel. Under these community forest management groups and TCN, district forest proposal will be there. They will provide their harvested timber to particular user groups and for local priority consumers. For the remaining part will be auctioned to the open market. From here, the traders, suppliers, sawmillers, furniture industries will take part in the value chain. And there will be wholesaler, retailers, and after finally they will be modifying and designing, and they will produce the finished goods, and finally it will be distributed to the urban consumers. Next one is value chain governance is guided. This is mainly guided by mixed governance system of the state government, market and forest groups. It is mainly categorized in three main phases: from production to collection, timber auctioning process, and marketing and consumption. The first one is this government centric, in which production and collection of salt timber is highly influenced by the government, and the organization is the divisional forest office. Auctioning process is also influenced by both the government institution and market actors. From the broader perspective, DFO as a government institution has the highest power in the existing timber value chain. Though the CFU can sell their timbers, but they need to ask the permission from the DFO for their harvesting, and if there is remaining timber, then to sell it outside also they need to take the permission from the DFO. Next one is auction price from different institution in Koilali. We can see the variation in the various auction price by the different organization in the same district. We can observe this TCN, CF, collaborative forest management. There is the low auctioning price in the CF, and there is the high auction price in the TCN. And here is the percentage share of the consumer price along the value chain. It is the case from Koilali district. Okay, we can see that producer gross profit in the TCN, and then after CBF, then after CF. Next one is value chain issues. There are various issues regarding the value chain. First one is lengthy process of timber collection, unfair auction process, rent-seeking behavior of value chain actors, improper policy for timber market, rapid increase in timber price. Okay, there is a very complex process for the timber collection. It must meet the two rainy seasons so that the quality of the wood will also degrade, due to which there will be unfair market price of the timber, unfair auction process. Different actors get involved in the auction process. Various social elite persons, brokers, political groups may interfere in the auction process, and there will be no fair value chain process. Rent seeking behavior. Most of the organization, most of the people are seeking the rent from the various elite groups, which also affect the governance in the market price of the timber. Improper policy for timber market. There has been no proper guideline for the timber market, and the rapid increase in timber price. We can see here the increment in the price of the timber, and around 2 years there is a decline in the price of the timber. This is due to the importing of the timbers from the Malaysia and other countries. Next one is this discussion. Major issue in the value chain of timber is related with the restricted supply of the timber to the market. Or report stated that timber productivity in Nepal is estimated only 2.5% of its potential. Current legislation follow the conventional management. We only focus on the 3D collection of the tree. And next one is the increasing supply shortage might shift the harvesting of the trees from other areas, either legally or illegally. Discussion. SAL is a so-called brand for consumers in Nepal, supply deficit or for timber import. Moreover, the use of metal instead of timber also hamper the carbon substitution of the timber product and the less price of the particularly SAL. And this Guns and Cannon mentioned that subsidized timber to local user group causes unfair competition in the timber market, which may introduce market failure and other social externalities. Frequent illegal logging of the timber for individual or small group of the people is more prominent in terrain. Excessive power of forest administration to regulate timber collection and supply also indirectly promotes illegal logging. Now let's move on to conclusion. Major sources of the SAL are CF, community forest, collaborative forest, and government managed forest. After the collection of timber, it is distributed through many selling entities. The distribution channel of SAL timber can be explained through two main channels: subsidized local channel and open market channel. The timber flow through subsidized local channel is from forest user group and local timber selling entities. The amount and rate of timber flow depends on local resource availability. Timber flow from open market channel is mainly through timber auction. The bidder with the highest bidding price wins the auction. Supply and governance of timber market and the structure of government and timber traders. Okay, recommendation are these. These are my recommendation. Good governance, DFO should be clear about its policies, and public-private relations, fair market regulation. Thank you. Thank you everyone for your time. Thank you everyone. Okay. Hello, sir. Any suggestions, feedbacks?
Sir, you are muted.
Vijay, sir, you unmute yourself first. Vijay,
Yeah.
sir, unmute.
Hello, Tilak sir, Vijay sir, Yogendra sir. Any feedback, suggestions?
Thank you, Subhash, for your nice presentation about the value chain analysis of the SAL. I think so. You are aid or some things for modification of the value chain, value added, and that means the product. You include the product diversity of the SAL product. That means carving, made a elephant, made a decorative door. That it means your topic is more attractive or valuable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any suggestions, Tilak sir?
Not quite. I don't have a suggestion, but like I was wondering. So when you did the value analysis of the SAL forest, did you find any price? So when you talk about the value chain, you know what has been added at the different steps, right? So do you have a tentative figures, like maybe how much that it cost at a community forest, and then when somebody is bidding, and then when it comes to the market, what is the price difference?
I have mentioned that in my term paper, but I have not present here. Sorry for that. And thank you for your suggestion, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Pass.
Yeah, hello, yes, sir.
I think all of you are presented today or will tomorrow?
I think 11 of us has presented.
I will be presenting Subhash brother. I will be presenting.
Okay. Now let's.
Susan.
Yes. Okay, Susan, let's do it.
Okay, thank you. Is my slide visible?
Yes, your slide is
Susan.
visible and you are audible.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are
Susan.
audible.
Okay. Firstly, I would like to thank our campus chief and our module coordinator, Mr. Yogendra Yadav sir, and our M.Sc. M.Sc. department head, Yogendra sir, and our lecturer Tilak Chaudhary sir for giving me this opportunity to present in front of you all guys on a topic of timber marketing and trade analysis, a global and national scenario, which is basically a term paper on forest product and utilization. This is the table of content. This is the layout of my presentation: introduction, objective, methodology, review findings, conclusion, and references. Moving on towards the introduction. Timber is the most valuable commercial commodity taken from most forests, and its removal strongly influences the character of those forests. Timber is removed to convert land to other uses, and it is removed in regular harvest activities of managed forest. In describing wood and timber demand and supply history and status, some technical terminology is often used. Demand is the schedule of quantities that would be purchased by consumer over a range of prices, while supply is the schedule of quantities that would be produced in geographic region by product manufacturer over a range of prices. Production is defined as the amount that is usually actually produced in a geographic region, and consumption is how much is actually purchased by a consumer in a geographic region. If a country or a state consumes more than it produces of a given product, then it is a net importer of that product. If it produces more than it consumes, then it is a net exporter. The incentive for a country or state to produce a different quantity from what it consumes arises out of the ability of buyers and sellers to move products back and forth across national border and state lines profitably. The objective of my term paper is to review timber marketing and trade analysis in global and national scenario. Moving on towards the methodology, secondary sources. The input were collected through the secondary sources, which includes the several published and unpublished literatures, articles, reports covering a wide range of topics, and also through the internet-based websites. Review and finding of my presentation is classified into global context and the national context. Moving on towards the global context, the world timber demand and supply history and status. The United States is the largest producer of industrial timber of the world. For the last 40 years, it has produced a fairly stable 25% of world production of industrial roundwood, according to the UNFAO. In 1999, the world produced about 53.2 billion cubic feet, while the US produced 15.1 billion cubic feet, or 28.5% of the total. The second largest producer, Canada, produced about 12% or 6.4 billion cubic feet of the industrial roundwood in 1999. In order, the next most important were China, Brazil, Sweden, and Finland. Moving on towards the global demand for the timber. Growing demand for timber from rapidly developing countries such as China, India, and South Korea, alongside the historic global demand, continues to rise. It is estimated that the demand for timber is likely to grow from 58 million cubic meters in 2005 to 153 million cubic meters in 2020. The supply of wood is projected to increase from 29 million cubic meter in 2000 to 60 million cubic meter in 2020. The supply of timber is mainly from the forest plantation, and wood production in India is showing a negative growth rate. In absence of adequate supply from domestic sources, the nation has to depend heavily on import to meet its demand for timber, according to the WWF. This obviously puts considerable pressure on the supply sources. Consequently, illegal felling operation continue to escalate. As India takes steps to protest its forest in the fight against climate change, timber smuggling from Nepal is on rise. Nepalese conservationist and officials says that this increase in smuggling is the result of the growing demand for timber from the Indian market, as per BBC News Online. Nextly, production and trade on wood products. The total value of the world trade in forest product, which fell some 3.9% between 1997 and 1999, is estimated to have increased by 5% in 1999 to about 140 billion US dollar. This is recovery in trade reflects the moderated improvement in the demand in Asian markets, better prices for some products, and strong growth in North America and European economies. Coniferous log, including pulpwood production, is estimated to have grown slightly in 1999, though not all countries have production increases. Coniferous log production in China, for example, fell as a result of new environmental policy affecting the logging rates. The trend in tropical timber trade. ITTO country member exported about 55 million meter cube of tropical timber in 1999. The tropical timber exports made up less than quarter of timber total in 1999, and the market share of tropical timber export have been declining for most of the 1990s, reflecting tighter supplies of tropical timber and greater availability of alternative timbers. The figure shows the composition of the exports of tropical timber by producing the region 999, differentiating the logs, soundwood, veneer, plywood, according to the Asia Pacific, Latin America, and Africa. Now, timber imports. World timber imports amounted to about 320 million meter cube of the primary timber, with developed countries taking up 98% of this import. The European Union with 37% was the world largest importer of the primary timber in 1999, led by Italy, UK, Germany. The US with 28% was by far the world largest single importer of the primary timber products in 1999, followed by the Japan with 15%. Now moving on towards the national context, the production and consumption of wood in Nepal. In Nepal, sawn wood is the main product of the hardwood species, of which the most important is the sal, Soria robusta. Because of overexploitation of several species in the past, harvesting of live trees has been prohibited since 1994-1995. The sale of products derived from these species is therefore currently restricted. Although the ban has been lifted in the past, currently there is a total ban on log export, especially with respect to Soria robusta, Pterocarpus marsupium, Dalbergia latifolia, Michaelia champaca, Juglans regia, and Acacia catechu. Of the various forest product categorizes, existing documents suggest that the data for only 4 are available, that is roundwood, fuelwood, and soundwood, and wooden poles. Information on these products is collected on a regular basis by the institution detailed below. The fuelwood is measured by stack volume or chatta, whereas the roundwood and soundwood are measured in cubic feet. Data on wood, chipwood, wood residues, and other minor items are difficult to obtain. Of these are considered as sawmill waste. Oh, this is the table which clarifies the production of consumption of different wood products in Nepal. The products are industrial roundwood, soundwood, and fuelwood. Okay. Now moving on towards the projection of forest product demand in Tarai Hill mountain areas of Nepal. The government of Nepal is the predominant supplier of wood products in Nepal. In other words, it has a monopoly market mainly in the timber products. The demand for the timber and fuel wood from Tarai currently is way above the supply of the product in 20 districts of the region. The total current fuel wood demand for Nepal is about 10.5 million tons per year. The demand would increase to 11.7 million tons in 2020 and to about 13 millions by 2030. The demand for the fuel wood will continue to rise significantly due to mainly population increase in the Tarai, whereas the demand in hills and mountains will increase but at a slower rate. This is the figure showing the projected total demand of the timber in Nepal. Moving on towards the conclusion, the first part of this paper has shown that the supply of timber in international market has increased in the 1990s due to the growing population, production and exports of the temperate hardwood and softwood. The upward trend in the temperate timber supply has been propelled by expanded plantation in temperate countries, which is reflected in positive annual rates of the deforestation in those countries. The decline in tropical timber export was due to logging ban in several countries, levies on the export of unprocessed precious timber species, the gradual diverting of the raw timber material to downstream processing, growing domestic demand in developing countries, the economic turmoil that affected the Asia Pacific and some main consuming markets such as Japan and Korea in 1998, increased competition by softwood in all consuming markets, growing environmental pressure on import of tropical timber. Whereas in the second part, the demand for the forest product, mainly timber and fuel wood for both subsistence and commercial use, has been identified as one of the main drivers of deforestation and degradation in Nepal. Sustainable management of forest in Nepal could not only increase and stabilize the supply of forest product, but it would also help in the contributing the livelihood of community forest and community forest user groups and millions of households involved in the community forest management. There is a marked change in the collection and gathering activities affecting the demand and supply of the forest product in Nepal. The forests of Tarai are increasingly vulnerable to population growth, infrastructure development, and illegal harvesting of the commerce and trade. Significant amount of timber is also transported to urban centers. The demand and supply of forest products depends not only on the physical factor inherent in different ecological regions of Nepal, but also on the forest policy regimes pursued and implemented by the government of Nepal. These are the references from where I have collected all the information. Thank you. Any queries, any constructive ideas are heartily welcome.
Thank you, Susan, for your nice presentation. Your time was 10 minutes 50 seconds. Okay, now I'd like to open the floor for our colleagues if there is any query. Okay, I'd like to move on to our teachers now.
Yep, it was a nice presentation, Susan. I really liked the topic that you are talking about. So you are talking about the global forest demand and the national aspect. That
yes, sir.
It's really nice. You are comparing at the two levels, but like as you already made, that global population is going to increase and the global demand for forest products and the forest timber is going to increase. So in that case, it's going to come in the expense of the forest area, right? Where it's not only that the forest product demand is going to increase, when the population is going to increase, the food productivity or food requirement, that is also going to increase, right? So if we want to produce, if we want to feed like say 10 billion people, and then it has to be produced somewhere, right? So it's gonna cost a lot of problem, or the deforestation rate increase. So do you have any suggestion or any thought on, so what would be the conservation of the forest in that context? When you talk about the, you said like there is a lot of smuggling of the timber, right? That's illegally transporting, but like how it's gonna affect our conservation at our level, at national level, how it's gonna affect?
Yeah, firstly, government policy must be strictly promulgated and implemented in order to reduce the smuggling of the forest products, and there must be a close collaboration of national and international organizations and levels for the reduction of these smuggling in international boundaries. Yeah, legal policies reformations need to be done.
So it's gonna be great challenge for us. Maybe not in a 10 or 20 years, maybe in a 50 years. When we raise the population, maybe it is projected to raise 9 billion, right? Into 2030 or something.
The forest certification can be a better option.
So
yeah,
it's a matter of how you. Yeah. So basically, it's the great problem we are gonna face is not in the temperate region. It's gonna be on the tropical regions,
yeah, exactly,
where a lot of people live, and we have a forest that is growing fast because of the tropical climate, where tree growth is faster, where we have a lot of forest area. We are good. Those harvesting or those deforestation are going to be focused on the tropical regions, as a lot of studies have shown that tropical forest degradation and deforestation has increased in the past years.
Yes, sir.
And then some of the studies suggest that to address those problems, it has to solve the problem of the food from somewhere else. So somewhere else could be improving the technology of the food production, increasing the productivity per unit area, productivity of the food. It's not only the food, but per unit productivity of the forest product to meet the requirement or the demand for the future. So we need to improve the forest management. We need to improve, or we may have to plant fast growing species so that we could harvest them as early as possible and meet the demand. At the same time, we are conserving our forest. So these could be some of the options that we might have to think at our own level, because in our country, we don't have a lot of plantation forests. We depend upon the natural forests. Those are slow growing hardwood forest. Sal forest, it takes like say 8 years, but it has been predicted to be mature at 80 to 120 years. So that's a long period to grow. And then in our country, we have, I don't know the figures, but we have limited plantation where those are fast growing species. So we need to focus on those things also.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your suggestions. I will put it in consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Tilak sir, and thank you, Susan, for your nice presentation. I think we have 12 presenter today's. I think today's quota is full. And I'd like to open the floor for all my teachers for overall feedbacks to all the presenters. Yogendra sir, Vijay sir.
Yes, Vas.
If there is any suggestion, feedback, then you can.
I just suggest all of you. I think all of your presentation are very good in the context of slide design, template, text, matter, subject area, and rule of citation too. So why not you publish a paper in any journal, because it is your starting time. I suggest all of you that should present term paper for publishing in journal chart, because you have so many collected things, subject area wise, so review, so many literature review you have. And I suggest when you present or writing a term paper, you should follow the rule of paper when you prepare any term paper in any subject. At least you should form a 5 to 7 your favorite colleagues or students or friends, 5 to 7, because 5 to 7 author and co-author is the best for publication. And out of 5 or 7, which area is better for publication? Because your assignment is different, but your 5 or 7 students together prepared one thing, one topic, one subject area, and publish any type of journal. Because everybody have own skill, own writing skill, own review skill, and separate their role and accumulate efforts of in your paper writing in finalization stage. I think in each semester, you or your entire group will try to publish your paper in any journal like Banko Jankari and anywhere, and so on. All of faculties with you. Our new faculties are also at a hand. You are lucky because new faculties have so many experience to publish or writing a some paper or like a paper. So you have a better opportunity to give this type of term paper or a paper. Again, I congratulate all of you for best and good or nice presentation today regarding timber or utilization, because in Nepal, in context of timber utilization, there is so many lack of paper. You follow the Google or Google Scholar. In the Nepalese context, you might not so many paper your hand. So you should start the writing a paper, and in future you have at least one paper or two paper or three paper pass the M.Sc degree. So in scientific community, you have the measurable thing, your gained subject area, how many publish your paper. So it is better for you are lucky. So best of luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And any suggestions, feedback, Vijay sir, Tilak sir?
Okay, I will go first before BJ sir. I think BJ sir would give the closing remarks. So it's my just observation, what I have seen here. So based on my experience writing term papers, when we talk about the term papers, it's not a complete research. So that's why I think Yogendra sir said that like 4 or 5 students could work together to produce a paper. So it's like term paper, it should focus on smaller things. I don't know what are the criteria, how many pages you need to submit for your report for term paper. But like when I wrote term paper for myself, I was just writing a report for 3 pages or even 2 pages. So it's like a very short. I don't know the criteria what we have, how many pages you need to submit. So that's why I was thinking, if someone could focus on the smaller things instead of looking at the very broad ideas. We are talking about the very broad ideas. We are not talking about the specific things. Like I saw some of the one presented about the wood structure. That's really nice. I like that, because someone is talking about only the wood structure, not focusing on the global issues at very large. So it would give us better idea. I know it's like a learning phase. The purpose of the term paper presentation is to make or share what you have learned through the reading different papers. So I would love to see smaller topics, smaller ones. But like when I saw someone had a 10 minutes of time, someone finished at just 6, right? You said someone finished at 6, someone took like 12 minutes. So when you are given 10 minutes, make full utilization of that 10 minutes. Everyone should like, that has been allocated to you, and that should be fully utilized. And if you think you are underprepared, that you don't have the sufficient material, put examples. Just share the examples, not just a paper, but like a certain paper could have said, okay, because of certain things, all forest degradation is increasing. So they could have given a reason, right? Because of maybe cattle ranching. Cattle ranching is one of the biggest problem for tropical deforestation. So you could give us such examples and take your complete time. I don't know if you are marked for your timing also, but like when I used to do the term paper presentation and those things, we were marked. If we were under presenting, we were severely penalized. But if we are above a minute, it's not a great deal. But like if you under present, you don't utilize your time, then you are penalized for that one. So that's all that I have observed today. But like I don't know objective of this term paper, so I'm not gonna say more in general about the term paper.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, your suggestion and feedbacks. Now I'd like to request Vijay Yadav, sir.
Thank you, all of you, for your nice presentation about the forest utilization subject. With example, also incorporate more things through the literature review. Due to it is not a thesis, but is a project term paper. So we are only consider literature review. I think you are all of you have a nice presentation in 2 days, and we are also joined tomorrow for the presentation at the same time. That means 1 p.m. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.